What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 14 SC. 326 Show Strength. Light. The best traditional dishes of different countries. Best culinary dishes of world. Such a high density of ice spears flew towards Luffy like a torrential rain. And the punch Luffy just hit the green bull out of the danger zone, which is also the time Aokiji was waiting for. So that's what the green bull's smile just means. Luffy turned on the fourth gear directly, and blood-colored steam continued to emerge from Luffy's body. However, even with the fourth gear, facing such a terrifying attack, Luffy couldn't help it. There is no confidence to fully follow. Just when Luffy was ready to fall, the wall of fire rose in front of Luffy, and the red flame was raging in front of Luffy. Even the ice spear as strong as Aokiji could not break the defensive offensive formed by the raging fire. The sudden scene obviously also made Marine on the frontal battlefield feel the pressure. The heat wave brought by the flames began to sweep the entire battlefield. The ice crystal field originally created by Aokiji's ultimate move, the Ice Age, was being swallowed up by the flames little by little. What? Aokiji could feel that the flames in front of him blocked all the ice spears he had just released, while Luffy's breath was still stable at this time, apparently not taking any damage. Could it be? Is it Fire Fist Ace? This was Chingshong's first reaction. After all, only the Mera Mera fruit of Logia could disintegrate his frozen fruit ability. But this thought only flashed in Aokiji's mind for a moment. After all, although Ace's strength has reached Admiral's level now, it is impossible to crack his Ice Age with one move. Could it be? A terrifying thought appeared in Aokiji's mind. Could it be that man? But I didn't feel his breath. I just thought that Aokiji's forehead was already dripping with sweat. This is the fear that exists in the soul. That is the man who killed Akainu. He naturally knew about Akainu's strength, and looked down at his own prosthetic limb made with his own freezing ability. This is what he left behind when he was fighting Akainu. At that time, Akainu had such terrifying strength, but was killed by a man named Bai Yu. If the man does come, the situation on this battlefield will be reversed again, and the Marine's advantage brought by his arrival will be gone. As the water vapor produced by the flame melting the ice slowly dissipated, the picture in front of me became a little bit clearer. A terrifying pressure swept from the sky where Luffy was. The person Aokiji didn't want to see the most was still there. Not far away, two people were suspended in midair. Bai Yu clasped his fists with both hands, and stared straight at Aokiji's direction, and the woman beside him was Robin. Originally, Bai Yu wanted to wait until the five elders arrived on the battlefield, but seeing that Aokiji's despicable sneak attack was about to be achieved, if the blow just now really made him hit Luffy, I'm afraid even Luffy in fourth gear, but also seriously injured. How could Bai Yu, the deputy captain, allow such a thing to happen? He was very angry at Aokiji's behavior. I really didn't expect that Marshal Marine, the supreme leader of Marine, who has always advocated justice for the world's conquest of the outside world, would also do this kind of stealth. Is this the justice you preach? The remaining flame breath said lightly. At this time, Aokiji was already unable to move because of fear. Facing Bai Yu, for some reason, he couldn't ignite his fighting spirit. It seemed that his subconscious mind was telling him to personalize a man. There was a huge, humming, sound, and hearing this sound made Aokiji, who had no intention of fighting, regained his vitality. This sound, he was all too familiar with it, it was the sound of warships, the sound of the core ships that belonged to their marine. Here comes the five elders, Marine's strongest combat force at the moment, and if they come, even Bai Yu will have enough to drink. Luffy breathed a sigh of relief after not feeling that he was hit by Aokiji's moves, and then looked at the sky above him. Bai Yu, Robin, you guys are back. Still so heartless, it seemed that the skill that was enough to seriously hurt him just now wasn't aimed at him. I want to kill you. Zoro and Nami don't know where they went. Did you see it? Seeing Luffy beckoning from below, Bai Yu put his right hand on his forehead and was speechless. Ask for flowers oh. No matter what happens to the captain, he really doesn't care about it. Except for the safety and food of his companions, he probably doesn't care about anything. But isn't that the reason why the crew members are willing to follow him? This is also an alternative personality charm. Because Bai Yu's spiritual power has spread throughout most of the island, he also knew the arrival of the five elders, but it was not the five elders that surprised him. After all, he had known the arrival of the five elders in advance. But there is also an unusually powerful aura here. Bai Yu knows that he has never been exposed to this kind of aura. It is very strange, but it is also very powerful. It's just that the breath seems to be being held back now, but it's a little far from here, and even Bai Yu's current ability can't fully perceive what's going on there. The warship docked, the CPO's white suits cleared the way, and it was the five elders who walked behind. Looking at the broken fight scene in front of them, the five elders didn't seem to be planning to strike immediately. Looks like the rest of the Straw Hat Pirates are here, said one of the five elders, wearing a black suit, curly white hair, a fluffy white beard, and a flat hat. That's it. The mustache, who was still talking with a few other people, saw Bai Yu floating in the air. He was indeed here too, and it seemed that all the members of the Straw Hat Pirates had arrived. Quote. In fact, their interest in the Straw Hat Pirates is not that great. Rather than wanting to kill the Straw Hat Pirates, it is better that they want to get rid of this Bai Yu. The pressure Bai Yu put on them was too great. This kind of pressure was unprecedented. In the past few hundred years, neither the Roger Pirates nor the Rocks Pirate had put so much pressure on them. You know, even in that era, they were still sitting in the world government and commanding the so-called marine admirals who were on the outside front, and they would have to come out to deal with this little Straw Hat Pirates. Didn't you say that man was here too? Why didn't you see him? Said the CP0 cadre who was standing next to him with a wary look with a mustache. 0. Chapter 326 Auto-generated chapter title. 327. The 5 elders join the fight. Reporting 5 elders, just received news that Commander Marine appears to have been stopped by another group of Straw Hat crew and is still fighting. As Marine's most capable intelligence organization, the CPO certainly knew what the 5 elders were talking about. After all, there are records of Marine's movements, or accesses, and of course, these are the daily tasks of the CPU, and they are also the eyeliners that the 5 elders have placed beside Marine. Bai Yu naturally felt it too, and immediately landed directly from the air and came to Luffy's side. Captain, I'm afraid we are about to face a big battle. Bai Yu said, patting Luffy on the shoulder. Ah, aren't we just fighting right now? Luffy stroked his head. The next second, Luffy, who was still smiling, suddenly became serious. Although 957 was not as strong as Bai Yu's perception, his observation Hawkeye had already sensed danger at this time. Coercion. It seems that you have already sensed it. Seeing Luffy's sudden serious expression, Bai Yu smiled slightly. It should be the 5 elders, the strongest fighting force of the world government. It seems that we are going to fight a tough battle. At this time, the 2 teams that were still fighting on the battlefield also discovered the increased forces on both sides. The Green Bull has also woken up from Luffy's blow now, not to mention, the power of that fist is really not small, and the violent he can't stand it. Fortunately, his recovery ability is still very strong, and Fujitora is also using his Hell Brigade to stop the fast-moving pirates and others. They only need to drag the 5 elders to the battlefield now, and as long as those few reach the battlefield, they will never lose. The influence of gravity is very large, except for Bai Yu and Luffy and Robin standing beside Bai Yu, everyone else is affected by this gravity. It is Fujitora's famous stunt, there is indeed something. Bai Yu muttered while standing still. Ah, what's wrong with them? Is it a stomach ache? Luffy asked curiously after seeing Usopp and the others bending over and making expressions of pain. What he didn't know was that the reason why he wasn't affected was because before Fujitora used this move, Shufeng had already created a barrier with his Conqueror's Haki, and only with that little power of Fujitora wanted to break through Bai Yu's Conqueror's Haki is still out of the question. Fujitora and the other admirals also discovered this situation, and it is reasonable to say that everyone in this area should be affected by his move. But Qingshang clearly saw that Bai Yu, Robin, and Luffy's expressions at this time did not seem to be tricked. The most important thing is that this Luffy is still alive and calling Usopp's name. Besides, Bai Yu can resist the influence of Fujitora's gravity, he can understand, then how can Robin explain it? He is very clear about Robin's ability and strength, but now it seems that this gravity has no effect on him. How on earth did Bai Yu do it? Aokiji was very puzzled, but now is not the time to worry about this, they are fighting now. After a brief period of calm, the battlefield was started again, but Fujitora's power was still affecting everyone. The pressure on the Straw Hat Pirates on the battlefield has increased sharply. Broken. I saw Bai Yu put his right hand in front of his chest, and then clenched his fist and instantly exerted force. The air around the boom seemed to shatter, and Bai Yu's Conqueror's Haki was also released at this moment. When Bai Yu's Golden Conqueror's Haki touched the friendly companions, they were all relieved, and the gravity that was pressing on them just now also disappeared. Those Marines were not so lucky. Marines below Marine Vice Admiral all fell to the ground after this sound, foaming at the mouth. Conqueror's Haki is out. Damn it, since Bai Yu's Haki can already do this, the growth rate is really appalling. From Aokiji's point of view, the monster in front of him was stronger than the one he met before. Damn it, how many cards does this monster have yet to show? Even the admirals of naval headquarters couldn't stand this power. Although they could forcibly rely on their Haki to resist, how could they fight against the Straw Hat Pirates who had no advantage? Just when they were worried, the 5 elders finally arrived. Wearing a Taoist robe and holding a weapon, one of the 5 elders slashed directly into the void, and the terrifying slash seemed to tear the world apart. This terrifying blow swept across the battlefield, and since it had the power to purify, after the blow, the Marines who had been subdued by Bai Yu all stood up again one by one. And it would be obvious to find that Marine, who stood up again, had red eyes, and seemed to have lost his mind, replaced by a feverish state of battle. War Rhythm. The buff skill of the man with sword and glasses in 5 elders can be activated by attaching Conqueror's Haki to his weapon, temporarily enhancing the fighting desire of one's own camp and forgetting the pain. Of course, this move looks very powerful, but the side effects are also very terrifying. After the effect of the skill ends, all those who gain the benefit will receive double the damage obtained during the period. However, to the 5 elders, these Vice Admiral and even the people below Vice Admiral are their slaves. In their view, these people are completely their tools, and even the current Marine Marshal Qingshang and the others do not look down on them. The reason why Aokiji is recommended is because basically no one is available now, to put it bluntly, he is the top package. All they need is a puppet, whether it's Sengoku before, Akainu after, or Aokiji now, it's just a dog that he kept outside to use. That's why Garp didn't want to be an admiral, he didn't even want to be that vice admiral if he could. And the Marine Admiral, seeing the five elders take action, this will also boost morale. Of course, they sense the changes of the soldiers who just fell, but now they can't care so much anymore, and the top priority now is to deal with this group first. A member of the Straw Hat Pirates. Seeing that his conqueror's Haki was destroyed, Bai Yu was not surprised. After all, if the five elders didn't even have this strength, they wouldn't be qualified to be his opponents. 1 step, 2 steps. The five elders slowly stepped into the battlefield, and with each step, those seriously wounded seemed to be healed by an invisible force. Chapter 327, Auto-generated chapter title. Light. The best traditional dishes of different countries. Best culinary dishes of world. 328. Head-to-head, the strange abilities of the five elders. What ability is this, since those injured marines can heal quickly? At this time, Usopp was hiding in the distance. The safest place he felt was Bai Yu, but it was a pity that he was still some distance away from Bai Yu. Marine was F***ked. Luffy, Bai Yu, Robin, help me. Usopp waved frantically in the direction of several people, and his movements also caught Robin's attention. Usopp still has the ice pick that Aokiji just released by his side. Although Bai Yu is useless to him, it is deadly to his fragile body. If he touches this thing, he will probably lose half his life. Gone. This is still the first wave of attacks, and he still doesn't know when the next wave of attacks will come. Obviously, Xingqiang also attacked him just now, and it is no longer safe in his opinion. Seeing Usopp's action, and looking at the environment he was in, Robin crossed his hands, the flower fruit effect was activated, and countless hands emerged from Usopp's feet. For this ability, Usopp naturally knew that it was Robin's skill. He knew that this was Robin's plan to save himself. With a hand that only emerged from the ground, 12 lifted Usopp up and passed them to Bai Yu and the others one by one. Right. But at such a long distance, it will naturally be seen by the enemy. Kizaru was already flying in the air and making preparations. With orchid fingers in both hands, his eyes stared straight at Usopp, who was being transported quickly. The light between his hands shone, and then a burst of light bombs formed by photons shot towards Usopp overwhelmingly. This scene was naturally seen by Usopp, his eyes widened at this time, and he kept muttering, Robin, hurry up, if you get hit by that, you will die. However, even if Robin had this idea, she couldn't do it, after all, it was very far from her position, and no matter how fast she was, it couldn't be too fast. Wow, a figure came to Usopp with a ghostly speed. With a wave of his hand, a huge screen appeared in front of the two of them. At the same time, Kizaru's skills have also been activated, and countless light bullets smashed towards the two of them from the air. The sound like an explosion resounded throughout the battlefield, and the Marines had already evacuated the area before this skill was released. After all, they knew exactly how powerful Kizaru was. Falling from the body, it is estimated that the immortal will not live long. After the round of attack, the corner of Kizaru's mouth rose slightly, and his attack did not deviate, that is to say, the position where he released the skill just now must be correct, but now the breath he feels is very stable, and he is attacked by him. Usopp is fine. Could it be? Thinking of this, Kizaru subconsciously looked at Bai Yu and the others who had been standing still in the distance, but now only Luffy and Robin were left. Sure enough, all the attacks just now were blocked by Bai Yu who came over. Usopp had already closed his eyes when the countless light bullets shot at him. With his current strength, it was absolutely impossible for him to use his body to resist Kizaru's move. He had already made plans to die in battle. The imaginable pain did not come. It's okay, Usopp. Bai Yu's voice came in front of Usopp. Opening his eyes again, Usopp saw the familiar figure. Deputy Captain, I thought I was definitely dead this time, but I knew you would come to save me, woo woo woo. After speaking, he got up from the ground and held it from behind. Usopp. This sudden attack directly gave Bai Yu a chokehold behind his back. Woo, Usopp, if you don't come down, I will be strangled by you. Bai Yu patted the part where Usopp's throat was locked. Ah, ha ha ha, I'm so excited. Usopp smiled awkwardly. Go to Robin and the others first. It's relatively safe there, and you can use your abilities from a distance. After saving Usopp, Chu Feng knew that it would be a tough battle to meet him. At this moment, Robin's flower fruit is activated again, just like before, using his fruit ability to lift Usopp to their location little by little. After saving a Usopp, look at the situation on the field. Jinbei is now fighting against Kizaru. It turns out that when Kizaru went to the sky, Jinbei already knew Kizaru's plan, but his body is still not as fast as Kizaru. Fortunately, Usopp was fine, and he and Kizaru scuffled right away. On the other hand, on Brooke's side, because of the blessing of the Bone Dragon, he is still at an advantage now. Even if there are several Vice Admiral and Fujitora surrounding him, but with the cooperation of the Bone Dragon, there are back and forth fights. The only thing to worry about now is the five elders who have just arrived on the battlefield. The abilities of two of these people have already been shown, one is a swordsman with a sword, and the other is a person with healing ability. As for the other two, it is still unknown, but Bai Yu is not afraid, his current ability is not just kidding, even in the face of the five elders, he's not in the least. On the other hand, the five elders, after strengthening their marines, aimed directly at 957 Bai Yu. As long as this man is on the battlefield, there is no way for them to gain an advantage in the frontal battle, even if they have so many admirals in the fight. The man with glasses took the lead in attacking, and the knife that had already retracted its scabbard was taken out again. Hawkeye wrapped around the blade, glowing with a faint blue light. Seeing this scene, Chu Feng already knew that this was not an ordinary knife, and the strength of this old man with glasses was definitely not ordinary. It was the first time he had seen someone who could wrap Hawkeye around a weapon and emit blue light. Even Zoro's sword technique, he remembered that it was also black. Is it some kind of secret? Bai Yu can only think of this now, after all, he has never seen it. But now is not the time to think about it, because the attack of the old man with glasses is already close, and the simple and unpretentious knife is accompanied by blue light spots. This knife slashed directly on Chu Feng's substantial Conqueror's Haki. Now Chu Feng has developed Conqueror's Haki to a very high level. This protective barrier is what he developed. As long as his ability is not above him, he cannot break through this layer of barrier that wraps around his body. But just when Bai Yu felt that even his defense could not be broken by this fluttering knife, the blue light on the knife began to shine with dazzling light. Chapter 328, Auto-generated chapter title. Light. The best traditional dishes of different countries. Best culinary dishes of world. 329. The cat catches the mouse. The light just now turned into vaporization little by little and began to flow into Chu Feng's protective cover. The protective cover, which had no gaps, was broken at this moment. Although the hole was not large, it was enough to let the blue smoke fly in. This sudden change made Bai Yu instantly alert. The old man in front of him is not as simple as it seems on the surface, and this seemingly ordinary knife is not ordinary. Since I can break through my defensive wall, that's not bad. Bai Yu, the corners of his mouth rose, and he smiled evilly. However, the old man's offensive had not stopped at this time, the blue smoke began to wrap around Chu Feng, the smoke was not flying randomly, but it was controlled by someone, slowly moving towards Bai Yu packaged. Taking 2 steps backward, Bai Yu directly used Lion Fruit's ability to soar into the air, but the smoke seemed to be equipped with tracking missiles, and he would follow closely wherever Chu Feng floated. Sure enough, it's the same as I thought, with GPS navigation skills, but I just don't know how it can be contaminated with this thing. After dodging for a while, Bai Yu found that he couldn't dodge, so he had a bold idea. And the man with glasses is not in a hurry, his posture is still in the same state, he is very clear about his ability, Lan Yan will definitely catch up, as long as he doesn't cancel this ability, then Lan Yan will definitely catch up with the target. Have you been caught? The old man with glasses seemed to have a special connection with the blue smoke. At this time, Bai Yu was slowly entangled in the blue smoke, and the smoke gradually disappeared into Bai Yu's body. Bai Yu in the air suddenly fell motionless, and then stood in place. At this time, Bai Yu's eyes were closed, and he was standing on the battlefield. The old man with glasses who saw this scene put his saber into the scabbard. In the spiritual world, the place where Bai Yu will be is a dark place, and there is no light around. This feeling is not so much darkness, it is better to say that he is now in nothingness. At this time, he lost all his vision and hearing, and then, severe pain came from his body, 1 slash, 2 stabs. In front of him, several men in black each held a knife in their hands and were piercing Bai Yu's body non-stop. Bai Yu would try hard to see what it was and who the person in front of him was. But no matter how hard he tried, it seemed that he couldn't escape this empty space. On the other hand, Zoro, Nami, and Franky are also in a tough fight, and no matter what skills they use, they can't seem to cause damage to the old man in front of them. Seeing that several people are already exhausted. Suddenly a fire fist came from a distance, and then a huge flame fist flew over. And his target is none other than Kong. This blow also made Kong take a step back, and the steel needles covered with Haki also flew in the direction of several people at this moment. Zoro had 3 knives in hand, and rotated the 3 knives with extremely fast hand speed to form a barrier generated by the knife wind, resisting Kong's blow. The figure in the distance gradually became clear, and as expected, it was their reinforcement Ace. It seems that you are in a tough fight, Ace said as he walked to a few people. You don't know that the monster on the other side is outrageous, and we can't defeat him together. This monster can't let him enter the frontal battlefield, otherwise there will be endless troubles. Although Ace is here, Zoro still doesn't have it in his heart. A bit of slack, because he knew how powerful the man in front of him was, and I'm afraid it's only Bai Yu. Don't worry, okay, the front Bai Yu has arrived, and it is estimated that he has already joined the battle, but when I just came over, there seems to be a big player on Marine's side. Ace said. Originally, he came back with Bai Yu, but before that, Chu Feng asked him to check the situation on the island. After all, he sensed that there were other places where fighting was taking place besides the frontal battlefield, and Zoro Nami didn't come back. Is something wrong? Why don't we go back? This monster doesn't seem to have a good effect on him with our abilities, maybe Bai Yu can. Zoro thought to himself. This is the only way he can think of to deal with the old man in front of him now. The reason why Kong couldn't enter the front was because Bai Yu has not come back, so Zoro has no idea, but the news brought by Ace is very important. Okay, this guy definitely wants to go and take a look now. Zoro said, glancing at Kong, who had turned into a gorilla. Super. Saw Franky transform his body into a mecha-type car, and then let a few people get on it. After all, they had all seen Kong's speed just now. After consuming so much energy, it is not necessarily possible to get rid of this monster. The rocket car ran wildly on the road, and their destination was the frontal battlefield. And Kong saw the little ghosts in front of him driving such a novelty and ran away, and he didn't plan to chase. After all, he was getting old. In fact, just now he just wanted to exercise and warm up. How could he think that the young guys would react like that? Big. A small head of CPO standing next to Kong would ask, Commander, aren't we going to chase? Are we going to let them escape so easily? Hearing this, Kong laughed a few times and said, escape. Where do they escape? This place on the water is already surrounded by our marine, and where they can go, it's just a lesson in the urn, and sooner or later they will be caught. You've seen a cat catch a mouse and kill it when it comes up, so don't you have to play with it first, and then start killing it only after you've done your best. While talking, Kong also made a wiping action on his neck. Obviously, he had planned these things Nuo Li Jiao early in the morning, so he was not in a hurry. The speed of the rocket car is very fast, also because the water capital is not very big. 5 minutes later, several people came to the frontal battlefield, and the scene they saw at this time was different from what they imagined. The Marines who were affected by the ability of the 5 elders, now they all seemed to be alive and kicking. On the other hand, their companions, after this series of battles, all seemed to be exhausted, even Jinbei. This will also be panting, and Kizaru in front of him is much better than him. This is the ability of the old man with the mustache, the ability to heal, and to slowly restore the lost functions of the body. For the stronger person, the effect of this move is stronger, especially the few Marine Admiral now, even the Green Bull who has been beaten by Luffy just now seems to be in good condition. Chapter 329 Auto-generated chapter title. Light. The best traditional dishes of different countries. Best culinary dishes of world. 330. Windfall, Mangekyo Blood Wheel Eyes. At a glance, a familiar figure came into view, but Bai Yu at this time seemed a little abnormal. After all, everyone on the battlefield was fighting, and he was the only one standing in the middle. No, what time is it? Why does Bai Yu still have time to be handsome? This was Nami's first reaction. Of course, as their deputy captain, Bai Yu can really do such a thing. But soon, Zoro realized something was wrong, because Bai Yu's eyes were closed at this time, and standing less than 5 meters in front of him, an old man with glasses was watching him. He knows this person. Although he has never fought against each other, he knows that this person is very strong. He is a member of the 5 elders and the highest combat power of the world government. Could it be that Bai Yu was made by that old man with glasses? This was Zoro's first thought. Seeing a few people coming, Robin and Luffy all rushed over to meet. Zoro, Nami, Franky, Ace, you are finally back. At this time, Luffy's face was a little tired, and these were the scars he left when he just fought against Aokiji Green Bull. Bai Yu, what's wrong? What's going on? Nami looked at Bai Yu and asked. It seems to be the ability of the old man with glasses. Bai Yu didn't move after being surrounded by that blue mist just now. Robin repeated everything that had just happened. But Zoro at this moment has already rushed out, because 957 he saw the old man with glasses who was standing in the same place, and he drew out his saber again and was walking towards Bai Yu step by step. Even an idiot could see that the old man was going to kill him. And in the void space, Bai Yu was still confused, suddenly a light came in, and then a moth flew around in that light, and everything in front of him was broken like a mirror. Hey, congratulations to host who passed the illusion test and realized Mangekyo Blood Wheel Eye. The system's voice echoed in Bai Yu's ears, and Bai Yu, who was still in the illusion, was suddenly pulled back to reality. The knife of the old man with glasses was already close. This blow, the old man is bound to win. After all, no one who has been hit by his illusion can come out of his own world. In the hands of his dream demon, I don't know how many people have been killed. The pirate is a strong man, and he has absolute confidence in his illusion. But this knife, he still failed, because Zoro arrived. In fact, this skill of his is like a kind of cover. For the first time, he deprives the victim of all senses and thoughts, and the second knife directly detonates the blue smoke that enters the victim's body, causing the victim to explode and die. And this time his second sword was blocked by Zoro. Of course, he knew Zoro, the third man in the Straw Hat Pirates, but his battle power between Bai Yu and Bai Yu was still incomparable. Since Bai Yu is both hit, then Zoro has no reason to escape. It was the same trick as before, the weird blue smoke appeared again, but when he tried to wrap Zoro around, Bai Yu, who had been standing still behind him, moved, and his eyes were different from before, deep and deep. The black is matched with the eerie flowers outlined by red lines. Mangekyo Blood Wheel Eye seeing, the strongest celestial eye that sees through the three realms, the earth-shattering pupil technique, is the father of all illusion techniques, and any illusion technique will have nothing to hide in front of these eyes. The moment the old man with glasses and Bai Yu looked at each other, they felt something was wrong, and the next second they stepped back. And the blue mist floating towards Zoro was also burned by black flames at this moment. Amaterasu, black flame, only available to those who have Mangekyo Sharingan turned on. Black flames are produced where the Mangekyo Sharingan's eyes are focused, with extremely high heat and destructive power. Seeing this scene in the distance, Ace was very surprised. What kind of flame is this, since it can burn together with the fog? He is a Mara fruit-capable person. Since this black flame made him feel a trace of fear and anxiety, it was a trace of fear from his heart, and it was also suppressed by his blood. This flame was by no means an ordinary flame. BCAA. At this time, Bai Yu's eyes also had traces of blood flowing down. Robin, who was still standing in the distance, can't stand anymore. At first she didn't know what happened to Bai Yu, but now she saw the blood seeping from Bai Yu's eyes, she knew something was wrong. One reaction was that Bai Yu might be injured. Bai Yu, are you alright? Don't scare me, what's the matter? Robin will use her flower fruit, holding a handkerchief. Bai Yu helps wipe the dripping blood. At this time, Robin was obviously a little overwhelmed. The usually calm maritime historian, since he also has a flustered side, he didn't do anything else, just because of this injured man, he called Bai Yu. I'm fine, this is a side effect of the skill, I'll be fine later. Mangekyo Shui Lunyan, of course Chu Feng knew that he was Rong's little fanboy. What surprised him was that since the old man with glasses had unknowingly helped him a lot, he had triggered the system conditions to get this powerful pupil technique. The old man with glasses really understands, he doesn't know what the hell this Bai Yu is doing, and how he got out of his dream demon effect, and also, the chi he released to deal with Zoro's blue, since he was caught burned. What's happening here? But right now, he doesn't have the time to think about these things, and the top priority now is to win these people as soon as possible. The long knife in his hand was horizontal to his chest, and a low humming sound came from the old man's knife with glasses. Be careful, this old man seems to be serious. Bai Yu was the first to feel the old man's change, and his aura was much stronger than before. The mustache in the distance, this meeting also rushed to the side. This kid is really not easy, since I can get rid of your dream demon, it's the first time I've seen him, but next, don't give him another chance. I saw the mustache slap on the back of the old man with glasses. The old man with glasses only felt that he was hit by something, and then a mighty force penetrated his whole body. This is another ability of the mustache, strength increase. You can gain boost by touching your allies, and the stronger the buff effect. What? Bai Yu was very surprised to see this scene. After all, just now, he saw the ability of the mustache. Those injured marines have been healed, but what's the situation now? It seems that the five elders is not as simple as he thought. There are more than one kind of ability, there are only two in front of him, and there are two more who are watching a play. Bai Yu's pressure will increase sharply. Chapter 330, auto-generated chapter title. 331. Each perform their duties. Luffy. Ace came behind Luffy and punched Luffy. Hearing this voice, Luffy already knew who it was. Ace, I thought you would stay with old Whitebeard for a while, but I didn't expect you to come here now. After confirming that it was Ace, Luffy was very excited. He never thought that Ace would come in this battle. After all, the old man Whitebeard should be still training now. Since he would let Ace go so easily, his sons were right. But each one is a baby. Hehe, Daddy asked me to stay for a few more days, but after learning about your situation, I didn't stay any longer. After all, I am also a member of the Straw Hat Pirates now. Ace he touched Luffy's straw hat and said. Once upon a time, the Luffy in front of him was a follower who followed him every day, but now he has grown into the leader of the Straw Hat Pirates that the world is afraid of. Luffy grinned, showing his big teeth with a smile. Ace is really good for him, he knows Ace's ability, Mara fruit ability, Logia, Ace is there if so, he doesn't have to worry too much about Aokiji's abilities. As long as Ace was behind him, he dared to go forward, knowing that his brother Ace would protect him. Ace, let's go to support Bai Yu, those old men don't seem to be easy to deal with. Luffy has recovered a lot of physical strength by this time, and the previous battle really exhausted him, which made him not immediately go and help Bai Yu. No way, I have this idea in my heart, but my body can't do it, but fortunately, his recovery ability is amazing. Although he can't reach the best state, he can still support Bai Yu. On the current battlefield, the members of the Straw Hat Pirates have already arrived. Chopper is also treating the wounded. The battlefield is very chaotic, and the rescue mission is very difficult, but fortunately there is the existence of Bartolomeo, a barrier ability. His task is very simple, that is to protect Chopper, set up a barrier in the area where Chopper is, so that the wounded and Chopper cannot be affected by the outside world. Not to mention, this trick is really easy to use. With one operation, the Straw Hat Pirates also formed a simple medical level aid station on the frontal battlefield. The Marines are naturally not stupid. They know that this thing is definitely not good for them on the battlefield, so they have tried to destroy this thing over and over again, but each time they have failed, not because of anything else, but because of the ability of the barrier fruit ability. Kind of disgusting. The strength of the protective barrier is not something that a small fall like them can break, and the Admiral Strength Marine is entangled by the leaders of various Straw Hat pirates, which also makes this mobile rescue station temporarily safe. Come on, take this medicine, it won't hurt anymore, I'll stop the bleeding first. At this time, Chopper had already turned into a human beast shape with enhanced brain power. It was carrying a huge backpack behind it. It was full of herbs, as well as some panacea for wounds, and he had already thought about his responsibilities long before the war started. That is to treat the wounded. He is definitely not needed in the frontal battle. It is his purpose to treat the injured crew. The crew members who were drinking the medicine in Chopper's hands showed a relaxed expression on their faces. It was obvious that the prepared medicine was very effective. Seeing this scene, Chopper was also very excited. He affirmed himself once again. What is done is correct. At this time, Luffy Ace and also came to Bai Yu's side, those eyes that were as black as ink. No matter who saw it, they would feel fearful. The deterrent of the strongest pupil technique was too strong. The five elders' mustache and the old man with glasses who were standing in front of them seemed to have completed the sharp change at this time, and the old man with the glasses in the ceremonial uniform had already exploded a little by now. The perfect fit body comes into view. Is this figure really an old man who has lived for hundreds of years? Franky was stunned. He didn't expect that the old man who looked very old in front of him could have such a figure. It's just that there are so many scars all over his body. There doesn't seem to be a good spot on the skin. There are hideous scars everywhere. Is this the five elders hiding behind the world government? Is this the five elders who only command Marine behind the scenes? At this time, Aokiji was even more shocked than the Straw Hat pirates. In fact, he had never seen five elders take action before. The five elders are strong and it is only a legend in Marine. No one in this generation of Marine has seen five elders take action. The most I see are these old men sitting there in a meeting and giving orders. For flowers. To be honest, before this war, Aokiji didn't really believe how powerful the five elders were. After all, it seemed that several old men who were several hundred years old were capable. But now he can be sure that these old guys are really not ordinary. Whether it is their ability or the military medals all over their bodies, it shows that the five elders are the top figures in this era, and in those times before, what summit? War. It's just that the five elders don't think it's time for them yet. Bai Yu, let's show you today, our five elders are really powerful. The fully charged old man with glasses, his eyes will turn red, and the blue smoke from before reappears, but this time it's not the same as before entangling the enemy, but directly attached to the old man with glasses. Is it to strengthen one's own ability again? The means of these old things are really high. Watching the two gimmicky release skills, Bai Yu couldn't wait any longer. The wind was blowing under his feet, and he stepped out with one step, and at that amazing speed, the sound of detonation could be clearly heard. The B00M punch hit the old man firmly, but a strange scene appeared. The blue mist attached to the body suddenly appeared where the old man was hit by Bai Yu. Bai Yu's first feeling was that his powerful punch seemed to hit cotton, and it looked like a solid hit, but it didn't seem to cause any damage. You can't hurt me. With your current strength, you can't fight against me who was strengthened by the Dream Demon. Before he finished speaking, the old man with glasses held a knife in his right hand, like a flat slash in front of him. The power of this knife directly caused a huge ravine on the ground, and it was bottomless. Wow. The hockey formed by the Dream Demon directly extended to Usopp's feet, which made Usopp, who was already worried, instantly uneasy. He originally thought that he was so far away and should be safe. After this blow, he found that, on this battlefield, I am afraid that no one is safe. The most dangerous place is the safest place, and after much thought, Usopp decided to lift his spirits and fight again. 0. Chapter 331, Auto-generated chapter title. Light. The best traditional dishes of different countries. Best culinary dishes of world. 332. Mobile aid station. After all, he is also a member of the Straw Hat Pirates, and he is still the leader. He knows that there are still people who support him in the pirates, and there are still many. After all, his bounty is also a man with a bounty of 200 million. What kind of concept is this? The average bounty for a supernova is around 200 million. No, I've got to cheer up. I'm part of the Straw Hats, and I can't back down from this fight. Look around. Usopp saw Chopper at first sight, while Chopper was treating the wounded under the cover of the Bartolomeo barrier. He recalled a previous combo he and Chopper used against the Mole Man in Alabasta. There are too many people being treated by five elders' mustache ability. Basically, as long as they are injured, 970s are recovering little by little. This is really hurtful for them. Knowing that Chopper alone is too slow. Quickly ran to Chopper. Chopper, do you remember our combination skills? Chopper, who was treating the wounded, was also stunned when he saw Usopp, and then said, of course I remember, I will kill Uso Chow, but now I have to treat the wounded, I am afraid there is no way to fight. This is going to be frustrating for Chopper, he also wants to fight but he can't, he is needed more here. It doesn't matter, I will fight for you, you only need to treat the wounded, I only need your horn as a slingshot launcher, so that I can launch a wide range of gunpowder shells to support the battlefield. The battlefield at this time is already very big, and there are Marines that have just been strengthened in various places. These people are almost all acting in groups. They do not have a clear goal. As long as they are not friendly forces, they will be directly judged. For the enemy, launch an attack. Although these walking corpses are not strong in damage, they are better than many people, and they do not feel pain. As long as they cannot be hit at one time and lose their ability to fight, they will continue to fight. This also troubles the Straw Hat crew on the battlefield at this time. Although these small pendants are nothing to them, they can knock down one with one punch, but the number is too amazing, and there is no fear, plus the current Straw Hat crew has been fighting for a long time and has not been resupplied. This kind of army is here to consume their physical energy, and the wheel battle will exhaust you. Okay, then you have to take it easy. Chopper actually wanted to join the fight, and since Usopp could give him this opportunity, he would definitely not refuse. Strengthening of wrestling. Saw Chopper's two antlers start to skyrocket wildly, and it didn't end until a certain length. Seeing a deer antler the size of a chopper is just enough to form a giant slingshot launcher. Chopper, you are really good. With your launcher, I can guarantee that the two of us must be the brightest minds on the battlefield. Hearing Usopp complimenting himself, Chopper's big eyes lit up, and he liked the feeling of being affirmed so much. Usopp took the special slingshot from his pocket, wrapped it around two of Chopper's antlers, and pulled out a special gunpowder ammo. The name, Super Kill, Usuochao Air Support, was just thought of by Usopp, and the seemingly inconspicuous marble-sized ammunition flew into the air overwhelmingly. After flying for a certain distance, it landed, and then headed towards those Marines who had lost their minds. Seeing so many dense black spheres flying over, the Marines didn't take it seriously, but the next second, those spheres were touching the ground. Or when it was on Marine, there was a sudden explosion, and the heat wave of the explosion swept across a large area. This level of explosion naturally attracted Aokiji, but he completely ignored this kind of attack. After all, his ice could freeze the ability of all hot weapons. When Usopp's next attack was launched into the air, Chingshong shot. Frozen time capsule. The cold air shock wave went straight in the direction of Usopp, but just before the cold air shock wave reached its destination, a heat wave neutralized the attack. Your opponent is me. Ace's hand was raging. This time it was a head-to-head battle between frozen fruit and Maramara fruit. After this blow, Ace did not stop. A sea of flames formed at the foot of Great Flame Ring Yandi, Ace. Several circles of huge spiral flames wrapped around Ace. The flames slowly formed a giant great fireball in front of Ace. The air waves flew in the direction of Aokiji. Ace, Aokiji, who would enlarge the move this time, didn't expect it, but this move is about to take shape. If he doesn't make a move now, even if he is hit by this move, he may die. Armament hockey shrouded his body, and cold air leaked out of his mouth. The most powerful move of the Ice Age, although this move is very heavy for the current Aokiji, but there is no way, if he doesn't do it now, I am afraid there is no chance. At this time, the final form of Ace Yan Emperor has appeared, and there is a dragon-shaped phantom on the huge fireball. Boom. Cracks began to appear in the ground, and the surrounding air began to be replaced by a heat wave. The ball was released, and the goal was directed at Chingshong. And Aokiji's Ice Age was also launched at this moment, and the collision of ice and fire seemed to divide the battlefield into two halves. The old man with glasses from the Five Elders who cut a knife has also noticed that his knife just now broke the Conqueror's hockey next to Bai Yu. Although it seems that there is no substantial blow, it is still very surprising to Bai Yu. Since he obtained this ability, this old man is the first person who can break his protective shield, although this is only 0.0 his lowest defense skill. Brothers, go and help others, these two old things will be handed over to me. At this time, Bai Yu was extremely excited for some reason. The stronger the enemy, the happier he was. It seems that this time I have to be really good at it. And the few people who heard Bai Yu's words naturally understood that Bai Yu had to be serious. To be honest, they couldn't help in this level of battle. Most importantly, they believed that since Bai Yu said so, it must be fine. Robin came directly to Chopper and used the ability of Flower Fruit to move the more seriously wounded on the battlefield to Chopper one by one. Because of the joint attack skill with Usopp, Chopper cannot move at will. The original mobile rescue station can only become a treatment point. Chapter 332, Auto-generated chapter title. Light. The best traditional dishes of different countries. Best culinary dishes of world. 333, Marine's highest combat strength. With the addition of Robin, everything will be different. The ability of Flower Fruit has achieved great use in transporting the wounded. And Bartolomeo saw that his predecessors came behind him one by one, and he was about to fly with joy, and now he used the barrier more diligently, and the scope of the barrier was also growing. Suddenly a ring was thrown from a distance, and Robin also took it subconsciously. This ring belongs to Bai Yu. Although Bai Yu doesn't use it often, he has seen it. There are immortal beans in it. Share these immortal beans with everyone, you can restore everyone's physical strength. Since the opposite has the ability to restore the mustache, Bai Yu naturally has a way. This is the fairy bean he just obtained, which will be useful. Robin understood it, and Flower Fruit handed the fairy beans into the hands of the Straw Hat crew people, but after all, the number of fairy beans is limited, so they can only be eaten by the cadres for the time being, but this is enough. Jinbei was stunned when he saw this pill-sized thing he had never seen before, but since it was Bai Yu's, there was nothing to worry about, it was over. Immortal beans melted in the mouth, followed by a steady stream of power. That power was really lost in the 12 battles, and the physical exhaustion was greatly relieved at this moment. Jinbei felt like this it was as if he had been beaten with blood. Kizaru naturally saw this scene. Jinbei, who was already a little sluggish, suddenly recovered, and Conqueror's haki also obviously strengthened a lot. That's right, I didn't expect you to have follow-up supplies. I'm even more interested in your Straw Hat Pirates. Every time I can bring a different surprise to the old man. From the front, Chu Feng would be very excited. The old man with glasses from Five Elders saw that he had succeeded, and the corners of his mouth rose slightly. It seems that you, the man known as the Great Demon King, is nothing more than that. In my complete victory state, even you can only become the soul of my sword. But Bai Yu didn't pay attention to him at this time. At this time, Bai Yu's body had red steam leaking frantically, which was not Haki's power. 8 inner gates, the gate of death is open. 222, red blood steam enveloped Chu Feng. The 2 old men in front of him were not ordinary people, so he didn't want to keep it any longer. 8 inner gates directly opened the last gate, the dead gate. This door is Guy's final skill against Madara. Bai Yu doesn't believe that this old man's defense can be stronger than 6 paths Madara. Since it is more about speed and strength, I will upgrade these to ultimate. Be careful, this kid is not normal. The mustache standing on the side was the first to feel that something was wrong. The power of this kid in front of him increased by more than 10 times in an instant. What is this concept? Even his ability can only increase by 5 times in an instant. That was the limit. He didn't know how Bai Yu did it, and he didn't have the time to explore. The person standing behind him who had no intention of attacking moved. Dressed in a red suit, his blonde hair and beard make him stand out. He also felt Bai Yu's changes. This wave is probably the strongest blow of this man. He must take action at this time, otherwise he may have endless troubles. I saw that the hands, feet and various parts of the body of the blonde old man who was still in human form began to mechanize, just like Franky. Transforming people. Franky in the distance naturally also saw this scene. This scene was still very shocking to him. Since one of the 5 elders is also a transformed person, the news can be said to be very explosive. His changes continued, and after a while, the blonde old man had now become an armor-clad remodeler, but the outside of his body was wrapped tightly by his own armament haki. There is such a method, it really opened my eyes. Bai Yu looked at this strange scene and did not panic. After all, Franky is also a transformation person, although he is definitely not as advanced as the old guy in front of him, but the principle is almost the same. At this moment, Bai Yu moved, and the red steam formed a blood-red lion on top of Bai Yu's head. The lion stared straight at several people. The next second, Bai Yu punched out, and the fist collided with the air. The air cannon hit the blonde old man who had just completed his transformation. Dong dong dong. The sound of hitting the metal sounded, but the replacement position that was hit by Chu Feng's punch had already dented, but in the next second, a miraculous thing happened, the body that had just been hit and dented, once again restored. It's this ability again, could it be? Bai Yu glanced over, yes, it was a mustache. Twice in a row, the first time was the old man with glasses, and the second time was the blonde old man. Both times he felt that he had hit the opponent, but neither caused substantial damage. Bai Yu's inference is that these 2 guys, who are the kind of fighters who charge at first glance, shouldn't have this amazing recovery ability. The only thing that can be said is the ability to stand beside them with a mustache. After understanding this, Bai Yu did not hesitate, and the lion above his head also made a ready gesture of running at this moment. Every time, his goal this time is the mustache, and he has already felt that the mustache is the key among these people. I really can't tell, since this old man is a wet nurse. Bai Yu complained. Next, Bai Yu flew out, and the speed was so fast that Bai Yu was already in front of the 5 elders before they could react. Night guy. Boom. The huge sound rang 970 again. This extremely fast kick finally hit the mustache. Although the old man with glasses and the blonde man tried their best to keep the mustache, the speed was really high. So fast that even their eyes couldn't catch it. The space in front of him was obviously distorted. What kind of power this is? The man in front of him once again shocked them. PFF'd. Blood flowed out of the mustache's mouth incessantly. This kick had already shattered his internal organs, causing him to faint directly. One of the 5 elders who was still standing in the same place, the long beard couldn't stand anymore, and came directly to the mustache, as if he took out something and put it directly into the mustache's mouth. But for Bai Yu, what they are doing now is all in vain. He is very aware of the power of the night guy. As long as this kick is hit, then the human body can't resist at all, unless he is not human. Of course, Bai Yu's attack is not over yet. Although this move took a lot of his energy, there are still a few people left in front of him. If they don't get rid of all of them at once, then the battle will end now. Meaningless. In the distance, CP0 opened the way, and in the middle walked a strong old man like a gorilla. Come on. Zoro looked in the direction the group was coming from. Kong, you're finally here. The glasses old man in 5 elders was obviously relieved when he saw the old man. Chapter 333 Auto-generated chapter title. 334. Who can fight one-on-one? The addition of this person will definitely bring about a huge change in the battlefield. Although Bai Yu has just abolished one of the 5 elders, it is clear that this man who looks like an old man is probably more difficult to deal with than these 5 elders. Marine Commander Kong, who is above Marshal Marine, is the true Marine ruler. All Marine appointments or dismissals have to pass him, that is to say, all appointments must be approved by him before they can be recognized. He is the man who really holds the real power in Marine. Ha ha ha, it's really lively. It seems that the old man is not too late. Looking at the messy battlefield, Kong was not in a hurry. Now that he sat down leisurely and elegantly, the Marine next to him also understood very well, and directly a chair came from out of nowhere. Who is he? He looks so attractive, it's bigger than the 5 elders card. Bai Yu, who was fighting at this time, also saw Kong, and this was the first time he saw this old man. Just at a glance, he knew that this old man was not simple. Although he didn't do anything, the aura of a strong man was constantly radiating from the old man's body. The 4-5 elders in front of them, if Kong joins the battle at this time, even he may not be able to retreat so easily, but since this is the case, they have no possibility of retreating. Failing to succeed, Bai Yu never thought that this battle would be lost, even if the current situation was not favorable for them. Marine's family assets might have been taken out in this battle. The mustache that has just been brought down will also be taken away by another 5 elders with long beards, and there are 2 5 elders confronting Bai Yu in the frontal battle. Bai Yu's 8 inner gates did bring a lot of trouble to the 2 of them. They have never encountered such a secret method, which can instantly increase a person's strength so much, but they are not false at the moment. After all, they are people a lot, and Kong will come here too. Even if they can't fight, this Kong won't sit idly by. Bai Yu's current ability can't last too long. You must know that the 8 inner gates originally opened the 8 inner gates, but the life force is overdrawn. Although Bai Yu can open the last gate without overdrawing the life force, it also consumes a lot of energy. The energy, even as strong as Bai Yu, can't last long. He has to fight fast now. He took out an immortal bean from his pocket, which he had prepared for himself before. After all, there was definitely no way to end this battle quickly, so he kept his back. After Shandu's entrance, his strength was rapidly recovering. Although he couldn't return to his peak state, it was enough. After all, his attack had already caused a lot of trouble to those old guys. The blonde old man would raise his 2 arms, and then those 2 arms directly transformed into the form of rocket launchers. The light gathered at the muzzle of the cannon, and after a while, a charged energy cannon shot away, thinking of Bai Yu. But Bai Yu's speed is not ordinary in this state. Obviously, this kind of attack can't do anything to him, but just after Bai Yu thought he escaped easily, the light bullet that had been shot back has returned. This picture is very similar to the energy wave of the Super Saiyan in Dragon Ball. What the hell is going on with these people? The old man with glasses is the old man with blonde hair. How come their attacks have tracking effects? It's really troublesome. But even so, relying on the speed advantage, Bai Yu is still at ease, but he definitely won't take it hard with this bright bullet. Isn't it a fool's behavior to be able to hide and take it hard? At the moment, he also started a new plan. Since he can't escape, he will detonate him. I saw Bai Yu's ghostly figure matched with his body strengthened by 8 inner gates, and only in the blink of an eye appeared behind the bespectacled old man. With such a fast speed, even the glasses old man who was the 5 elders did not react. The next second, Bai Yu raised the glasses old man back to back, clasped the glasses old man's arms with both hands, and turned his back to the old man like this glowing bullet. Of course, this light bomb definitely didn't reach Bai Yu. After all, he used the old man with glasses as a shield. At this time, the old man with glasses, the glasses that he was wearing will be knocked off, showing an embarrassed look. Bai Yu has already left the old man with glasses. His purpose is to let the light bullet hit their own people, so that next time, the blonde old man will not be able to release the skills just now so recklessly. The old man with glasses will look at the glasses that have been smashed, and then glance at the blonde next to him. Obviously he was very unhappy with what he did just now, but this is the battlefield, the situation is changing rapidly, and it is not under his control. It can only be said that Bai Yu is too cunning. Since he thought of using him as a shield, the most important thing is that Bai Yu the current state is too strong, and his speed has no way to cause any damage to him. Kong, what the hell are you doing? If you don't do anything, don't blame me for reporting you like Lord Yimu. At this time, the 5 elders were impatient, Bai Yu's speed, and they had no choice but to rely on Kong, but at the moment Kong didn't seem to plan to take action, so they could only move out the adult now. Sure enough, as soon as the name was uttered, Kong, who was still calmly admiring the battle in front of him, suddenly became restless. Oh, tell me you old men, don't be so impatient, didn't I come here? After saying that, Kong stood up, and at this moment, the old man who seemed to be indifferent at first changed his aura in an instant. The form of Donkey Kong appeared again, and Kong, whose body was wrapped in Hawkeye, was rushing towards Bai Yu at an extremely fast speed. His goal was very clear. Bai Yu was the strongest among these people. In his opinion, only the strongest are worthy of his opponent. That speed, since it was about to catch up with Bai Yu's driving 8 inner gates, made Bai Yu very surprised. What kind of monster is this? Bai Yu, Be careful, this guy is not Nuo Zhao's only fast, his defense is amazing, his hair is his secret weapon. Zoro in the distance began to remind Bai Yu, after all, they had just fought each other, so I still understand some of Kong's abilities after all. At this time, Kong showed a weird smile, and after getting close to Bai Yu, he punched. This punch didn't look gorgeous, but it was powerful and seemed to have hidden strength, and it knocked Bai Yu back a few steps. Seeing that his punch only caused such a small reaction, Kong laughed instead of anger. He was happy. It's been a long time since he had met such an opponent. The last time he met was with the Red Earl. When fighting, it's just that it's been a long time. But the five elders naturally won't give them two heads-up chances, their purpose is to deal with Bai Yu as soon as possible, rather than let Bai Yu fight them one by one. If you can fight in groups, who would be stupid enough to go heads up? Chapter 334 Auto-generated chapter title. Light. The best traditional dishes of different countries. Best culinary dishes of world. 335. Revolutionary Army advance troops arrive. However, Bai Yu is not without teammates. Zoro Nami has come to Bai Yu's side. Although the fighting strength does not seem to be as strong as these old men, they are not false. After all, they still have Bai Yu Kabuto. Kong's preparations are ready at this time. The Phantom Beast has a huge body and looks strong and powerful, but the speed of running has surprised everyone. No, what is this? How can such a large body have such a speed? When Bai Yu saw Kong after the transformation, his first reaction was, this dude can't be a Super Saiyan, isn't this form of Monkey King's ape form? It's just a different color. Zoro will be stunned. It turns out that Kong, who played against him at the beginning, did not show his true strength, and the Kong in front of him is obviously more than one grade stronger than before. Kong's scarlet eyes stared at Straw Hat Crew at this time, and he had only one target, and that was Bai Yu. The two people at this meeting have become the most chaotic thoughts on the battlefield, one side is steaming with blood, and the other side is in the form of an ape. In the sky, a group of crows covered the sky and covered the entire battlefield. No one on the ground, either Marine 970 side or Straw Hat side, knew what was going on, only Luffy would be excited. Of course he knew what was going on with the crow. There seemed to be a group of people standing on the crow in the distance. The man at the head was wearing a cloak and couldn't see his face, but a few people behind him had already revealed his identity. Sabo. Luffy recognized Sabo standing behind the man at first sight, and the crow's ability Luffy has also seen, the ability of the Revolutionary Army North Commander Kara's crow. The five elders looked at the crows in the sky, and with the storm raging, the sea also seemed very unsettled, and the waves slapped the shore frantically. Revolution. Army, damn it, since it's at this time. The long beards of the five elders looked at the sky with a look of anger. You must know that they already have the advantage on their side, but now the arrival of the Revolutionary Army is bound to disrupt their rhythm. It seems that this time it is not only Long and Sabo, but also the commander of the Northern Army, Callus Raven, and Eastern Army Commander Bello Beatty. The strength of these few people should not be underestimated. Their marine is already a bit hurt at this time. If they continue to fight like this, the potential BCAA will definitely cause more casualties. At this time, the five elders already have the intention of retreating. After all, it is difficult for them to dominate the battlefield after this battle until now, and the addition of the Revolutionary Army will definitely make it more difficult for them to play. I'll stop here this time. I hope I can fight with you next time. Kong punched Bai Yu at this time. At the same time, Bai Yu counterattacked in the same way. Where the two fists met, it seems that even the space has been distorted, and the surrounding air has become thinner. Even the few people standing behind Bai Yu felt an invisible pressure oppressing them. Hee, I'm looking forward to it. Bai Yu is also full of confidence. He doesn't think the orangutan in front of him can defeat him. It's just that their casualties in this battle have been very heavy. If the fight continues like this, he will be fine. But his companions, the crew members, probably wouldn't have suffered that kind of blow. The five elders can ignore those Marine Mother-in-law and Marine Admiral as human beings. They can choose again when they die, but he can't. These are his brothers and sisters. He doesn't want to let these people die worthless in battle. This time, the world government has almost used all their fighting power, and Bai Yu has also figured out the abilities of several people. Next time they fight again, he is confident enough to take down the five elders, including the Kong in front of him. The people of the Revolutionary Army were still watching in the sky at this time, and crows were flying in groups, surrounding the Revolutionary Army. Damn it, this dragon is too handsome. He didn't come down to help and he was still posing there. Bai Yu was speechless, although he knew that Long was Luffy's father and the leader of the Revolutionary Army, but he was also speechless. Too stinky. Above the battlefield, Marine was already slowly retreating, and Straw Hat Crew had no plans to pursue them. They had no strength now, and the previous battle had exhausted them. Except for the few crew members who ate fairy beans, the others were in the moment she saw Marine retreat, she couldn't hold back her breath any longer. In fact, the people who have fought till now have basically fought with perseverance and with their own beliefs. Marine's retreat speed is really acceptable. Those little snorts are the fastest. They don't want to fight for a long time. After all, they are all cannon fodder. They are the fastest to die, but there is no way to live. Forced. Now that the retreat order is received, it can run faster than anyone else. The Marine admirals were preparing for cover at this time, and they were exhausted. Before this battle, who would have thought that a Straw Hat pirate group could have such a great ability to push the Marine to this level? Just let them go, Sabo asked, looking at the dragon in front of him. It's not the time to confront them head on. The Straw Hat pirates have suffered heavy casualties. If they continue to fight, the gains will outweigh the losses, and our people are still on the way. Long said calmly. They were just the first troops, and the large troops were still on the way. They just rushed to the battlefield ahead of time with the ability of the crows, in order to give Marine a deterrent force. Long ago, when Long got the news that the 5 elders and Kong were dispatched, he had already started to call up the revolutionary army. After all, the appearance of these few people would definitely change the situation on the battlefield. At this time, a figure caught the dragon's attention. In the center of the battlefield, blood-red steam surged and rose. What is that, red flowing steam? Shouldn't it be Conqueror's Haki? I've never seen such a situation before. Is it a fruit person? Belabet, the commander of the Eastern Army, looked at Bai Yu curiously and asked. He is a big man now. Since you don't know, it seems that you hide in the room every day with makeup to ruin your brain. Sabo complained. The next second jumped straight down from the air, because by this time he had already seen both Ace and Luffy. Luffy, Ace. Sabo descended sharply in the air, came to Luffy's side and said, Luffy, this is a good fight. Hey, Sabo, it's great that you can come. If you come a step later, I'm afraid we will have a problem. Luffy looked at Sabo and smiled. For Sabo, the elder brother who grew up with him, he is extremely trustworthy, and like Ace, their relationship is extraordinary. Then you have to thank your father well. If it weren't for your father, I really don't know that you are fighting such a big battle here. 336 Moving towards the goal. The best traditional dishes of different countries. Learn more. It turned out that they had received the news 2 days ago, but there were other important things to do at the time, so they didn't arrive at the first time. After the matter was settled, Long hurriedly summoned a few cadres to take the lead with him to rescue him. Dear son. Your captain is great, how about you? Do you want to lend us revolutionary military use? We are very short of such a powerful partner. Hearing that Sabo was about to hit Bai Yu's attention, Luffy's expression immediately softened. He said decisively. No, Bai Yu is the absolute main force of our Straw Hats now. He left our pirate group and the strength of our pirate group has been reduced by at least half. Don't you want me to die? Luffy looked at Sabo with an angry face. Want to laugh? In fact, he was just joking. Naturally, he wouldn't want to take this kind of help away. After all, a rare talent like Bai Yu could stay by Luffy's side to help him, and he would feel more at ease. After all, the new world is full of crises, and his younger brother is a heartless person. If he can't fix it, he will be plotted against by someone with a heart. Just kidding. With Bai Yu by your side, I will feel more at ease, and you will have a better chance to become your so-called One Piece. Listening to Sabo's words, Luffy was excited. One Piece, I'm set. At the moment, Marine has all retreated, but it is obviously impossible to retreat so easily. Long is waiting for this opportunity. He is waiting for Marines to get on the ship. Only when he enters the sea can he exert his strength. The ability of the storm fruit was activated at this time, and there were gusts of wind on the sea, and the waves slapped the warships one after another. Many of those small warships were swept away by the storm and buried in the sea. Damn it, this dragon, since it is yin. On the warship, Aokiji would really stand on the bow watching the storm hit the marine warship. In the next second of Ice Age, Xingqiang made his move. Although he was already exhausted, there was nothing he could do. As Marine's current marshal, protecting the safety of his subordinates was his duty and what he had to do. Right now, there is no time to take care of their own consumption, and the other 3 admiral are constantly using their abilities to disperse the wind and waves like them. In the exclusive cabin of the 5 elders, the few people at this time were sitting and discussing something, and they didn't need to worry about the wind and waves outside. The mustache is seriously injured. Although I gave him a life-sustaining pill, I can't do anything about it. Since that guy named Bai Yu has such power, maybe only Lord Yimu can save the mustache. Longbeard looked at a few people and said, they didn't expect that Bai Yu's strength would be so strong. That punch had already shattered the mustache's internal organs. That's the only way it can be right now. He sighed as he looked at the long-bearded mustache lying beside him in pain. Although there are new people coming out of the pirates every year, and there are people who shock the world every year, but no one has ever forced their 5 elders to this point. What kind of punishment will I receive in the face of I am Sama? On the other side, the dragon has already come down from the air at this time, and his storm fruit ability is still continuing, but after the storm has formed, he does not need his control. After the storm is generated, he will have his own consciousness and attack the enemy autonomously. The scene was also discovered by Chu Feng. This dragon is indeed not simple. He is indeed the leader of the Revolutionary Army, Luffy's father. Hello, I'm Long. Unexpectedly, the first time Long came down was not to see his son's injury, but directly in front of Bai Yu. He was very curious about the man in front of him. Although he didn't see it, the 5 elders seriously injured one person, and he must have done it, otherwise there would be no one else who could have done it. Hello, Father Luffy. Bai Yu. This will be a little flattered. After all, this is the first time we meet. Since this dragon is so polite to him, this is something he didn't expect. You must know that in the original book, the dragon is a taciturn man. It can be seen that Long attaches great importance to him. On the battlefield, Usopp and Chopper breathed a sigh of relief as Marine retreated. Finally retreated. I thought we were all going to die here this time. Usopp, who was already somewhat exhausted, lay directly on the ground. And Chopper will still try to bandage the wounded next to him. Looking at the wounded people on the battlefield, Bai Yu looked at a dragon and said, I'm sorry, I still have important things to do. I'll have a chance to talk about it next time. After he finished speaking, he ran in the direction of Chopper. For flowers. Long was speechless for a while. This was the first time that he took the initiative to talk to others and was ignored. He was the leader of the Revolutionary Army, Long, a figure at the top of the world. Since he was ignored like this. But it is this point that makes Long and Bai Yu take a high look at this person. After all, there is no shortage of people in all eras. Obviously Bai Yu is not, and he admires such people. Usopp, Chopper, Bai Yu, walked, waving in the direction of the two. The two of them were also very excited to see Bai Yu, but they knew that Bai Yu had contributed a lot to this battle. Without him, Marine's encirclement and suppression would probably have to be fully explained. Point 0. Chopper, I'm teaching you a secret technique that can heal in a large area. Do you want to learn it? Bai Yu came to Chopper, looked at the wounded beside Chopper and said lightly. Hearing Bai Yu's words, Chopper's eyes lit up with golden light, and he treated secret techniques in a wide range. It was not much more convenient than developing special medicines. Isn't that the ability he has always wanted? Although Chopper can also be transformed into a combat mode to participate in the battle, he actually hates fighting in his heart. What he hopes more is that he can save lives and heal the wounded. He wants to be a qualified ship doctor. Every time he sees the faces of the wounded being treated by himself with the expression of gratitude, Chopper is very happy, and he is happy in his heart. Okay, teach me now. Too many people were injured on the battlefield, it would be too late for me to treat them one by one. At this time, the battlefield was full of mourning. These were the wounded left over from the battle, including Marine and their own. It was common for them to lack arms and legs. War is terrible, and if I could, I hope there will be no more wars in this world. Chopper folded his hands as if in prayer. But what he doesn't know is, who wants to have a war, but in the face of power and injustice, if you don't resist, you will be enslaved forever. This kind of life is not what Bai Yu wants. In fact, Bai Yu's ideas and revolution same as the army. It is his goal to overthrow the unequal rule of the celestial dragons that dominates the world government, and he is also working towards that goal. Chapter 336 Auto-generated chapter title. 337. Chopper's new companion. Bai Yu came to Chopper and put a snail-like thing in Chopper's hand. Chopper, his name is Katsuyu, can be used to heal the wounded, and now I give it to you. You have to treat him well. His ability depends on your haki, so you also need to practice in the future. Bai Yu looked at Chopper, who was treating the wounded, and said, this is something he had obtained in the system before, Tsunade's summoning item, but he didn't expect this thing to appear in this world. You must know that there is no summoning in this world. As I said. But he did appear, and he was so small and looked cute. As for the healing power, he was only told by the system. Bai Yu himself didn't know how strong the healing power would be. He saw Chopper's contribution in this battle. Although he did not participate in the frontal battle, he went straight to walking in this dangerous battlefield to treat the wounded in 1970. Looking at this cute little thing, Chopper's eyes glowed. I took over this lovely standing loser from Bai Yu, and rubbed it on his face to see that Chopper really liked it. Give this to the Chopper. Bai Yu is very relieved. This guy may love this little guy more than himself. But, what's the use of this, Bai Yu? Chopper asked eagerly at the way it was wriggling in its hands. This is very simple. You only need to use a drop of your blood to sign a contract with it. After success, you are its master. When you need to use it, you can put it where you need it. It's very simple. Of course, these are all told to Bai Yu by the system. After all, everything given by the system will be given to the host and how to use it. After hearing Bai Yu's explanation, Chopper did not hesitate, bit his finger, and then carefully dripped his blood on Yu's body. When the drop of blood fell on his body, a red light flooded out, and then disappeared into Katsuyu's body. Suddenly, Chopper's mind moved, and he felt it. At this time, he seemed to have established some kind of spiritual communication with him, since he could understand the language. At this time, Yu was also very excited, and began to step on Chopper's hand constantly, and her figure seemed to have grown a lot. Yeah, Bai Yu's body has grown bigger, is it my illusion? Chopper said, carefully moving his small paws. It's not an illusion, it has indeed become bigger. Didn't I just say that it will become stronger as your ability becomes stronger, and he has other abilities, which you have to discover by yourself. Hearing Bai Yu's words, Chopper was even more excited. He also has pets now, but he knows that many people on the boat treat him as pets. Although he is not angry, he has his own pet. He was in a much better mood now. Ship doctor, are you still giving me treatment? I'm about to bleed to death. At this time, a wounded in front of Chopper, the pirate that Chopper was about to treat, said. The previous Chopper wanted to use needle and thread to suture his wound, but in the middle of the suture, Bai Yu came, which interrupted his work, and when he saw Katsuyu, he was so excited after that, both the time forgets the work at hand. The man's blood flowed from the wound on his arm, and his face became pale due to excessive bleeding. Oops. Seeing this situation, Chopper was startled, and immediately started to look for his own needle and thread in a hurry. At this moment, Chopper slowly climbed onto the man's body, and then slowly came to the man's wound, where a faint green light lit up from the man's wound. The man who was still crying suddenly felt no more pain, and the blood of the arm that was still bleeding, the assassin also stopped bleeding. Chopper, who had just found the needle and thread, was about to turn around and sew the man up. He was shocked to see this scene. Now that Katsuyu had stopped the man's blood, what was even more amazing was that the wound was slowly moving, slow healing. What kind of recovery ability is this? Chopper would never have imagined that the current station has such a powerful power. Although Bai Yu said that the things he gave were definitely not bad, the effect still shocked him. Bai Yu, see you, he's dealing with the injured. Chopper was already dancing a bit. But Bai Yu didn't know what to do, and walked outside. What a fuss, this is just its first ability, remember to treat it well, it will give you more surprises in the future. Bai Yu said confidently. He has seen Hokage, and he naturally knows that the loss at this time is still in his childhood state. In a battlefield of this size, it is obviously impossible to treat a large number of wounded with a single chopper, but if Katsuyu has the ability to split, the situation will be very different. Katsuyu can split many, and then come to the battlefield to heal the wounded, and because it is a mollusk, pure physical attacks are completely ineffective against him. After Bai Yu did all this, she came to Robin's side. Robin also contributed to this battle. Although he did not have anything to do with him in the frontal battle, she, like Chopper, did some logistical work. Without her, the number of casualties on this battlefield would have doubled. It's hard work. 3 simple words came out of Bai Yu's mouth. Hearing this, Robin's face immediately turned red. She still has that Oni-san in front of others now, she looks like a proper and well-behaved girlfriend. If I can help you, I am willing to do anything for me, and this is what I should do. Don't forget that I am also a member of the Straw Hat Pirates. Just as the two of them were talking, Luffy jumped up and ran over. 0.0 inches Bai Yu, Robin, they said we had a good fight this time, so we're going to have a celebration dinner for us, just tonight, come on, too. After saying this, Luffy didn't care. If they heard it, they ran to inform the other team members on the battlefield. The other teammates now are basically sitting on the ground and resting. The battle just now was too much for them. If it wasn't for the ability of Shondo, they would be exhausted and unable to stand up now. But hearing Luffy's call, the crew at this time were also very excited, cheering with their last bit of strength. It was a victory for all of them. Marine retreated, they won Marine's pinnacle. This is an affirmation for all of them. Chapter 337, auto-generated chapter title. 338. Fame, Straw Hat Pirates. At night, the lights were bright, and the Straw Hat Pirates and the Revolutionary Army began to raise fire for dinner. They found a beach and began to eat and drink. This battle is heartwarming. Bai Yu looked at the dark corner of the beach and fell into contemplation. He has been in this world for a long time, and now he has adapted to this world. When he didn't come to this world, he thought Marine was the true righteous party. After I came here, I experienced the life here and found out that most of the pirates in this world are just a group of people who yearn for freedom, and those so-called Marines are the scum who have been notified by celestial dragons, although there are some good people among them. But the number is very small, after all, those who are close to Zoo are red and those who are close to Ink are black. In such a big environment, it is very difficult to stick to one's heart. Aokiji is one of them, but he remembers that Xingqiang in the original book is not like this now. After drinking a sip of wine, eating the big meaty legs in his hands, he just sat alone. Robin, who didn't see Bai Yu at the gathering place, will find Bai Yu by the beach. What's the matter? What's on your mind? Didn't we fight beautifully in this battle? Do you think that letting Marine go this time will usher in a bigger 12th revenge? When Robin said this, Bai Yu was stunned. He didn't expect this. After all, since they can beat Marine once, the second time is definitely not a problem. Bai Yu has this confidence, but this time I saw the power of Marine. Don't worry, next time we encounter this kind of battle, I guarantee that our Straw Hat Pirates will not be so embarrassed. But before that, I have to make you stronger. Bai Yu touched Robin's hair and said. Hearing Bai Yu say this, for some reason, Robin's originally uneasy heart calmed down at this moment. Perhaps only the man in front of her could give her such a sense of security. Next to the gathering place, Luffy will be feasting on his 2 good brothers. He was happy to eat, and suddenly found that Bai Yu was gone, which made him very strange. You must know that Bai Yu would not be absent on such occasions. Those big meaty legs and wine are all rushing to eat and drink. Since there is no such thing today. See, it's kind of weird. But this thought only appeared for a moment. He was really hungry now. After a battle, his physical strength was almost exhausted, and he would have to work hard to replenish it. Fortunately, his father was generous, and this whole large table of meals was enough for so many of them. Luffy, this fight was so good. I never thought that with your current strength, since you can fight Marine for this is something I never imagined. Long this will take a sip of wine and look at himself, said the son. For his son, he is still very optimistic, although there are few opportunities for communication. But he felt that his son was also sitting on the same thing as him, although not joining the Revolutionary Army, but they were changing the world in their own way, overthrowing the rule of the celestial dragons in their own way. In the world government, at this time the 5 elders were kneeling on one knee in front of a throne, and if someone came in, they would definitely be surprised. The supreme power controller on the face of the world government, since Chi-Chi knelt here, motionless. Each of them has beads of sweat on their foreheads, which is not hot. After all, it is impossible for the weather to be so hot now. In this way, several people continued in a half-kneeling position for more than half an hour. Then the man on the throne said, "Get up." The 5 elders under the steps, relieved, all bowed and stood up and bowed. Lord Shime. The moonlight shines on the throne, and for some reason, since the lights are not turned on at night, the only light that can be seen is because of the light of the moon. Those deep eyes looked particularly mysterious under the moonlight. At this time, the people below couldn't see the expression of the person on the throne at all, and there was no emotion in the sentence just now. This is Lord Yim. Even the 5 elders have never seen her true face, and her strength is beyond doubt. No one dared to challenge her, even the 5 elders were brought up by her. She is the supreme power controller of the world government. I am. You all go down. I'm very disappointed with your actions this time. Please reflect on yourself. As for the mustache. Speaking of which, Lord Yimu glanced at the mustache lying beside him. Take it. After saying that, a dark green pill flew out from the darkness. This can cure the mustache. This is the first time, and I hope it will be the last time, if the next time this kind of mission fails. Lord Yim didn't finish his words, but the 5 elders were so frightened that they fell to their knees again, this time on both legs. Obviously they were really scared. After saying this, Im's figure disappeared into the darkness. I'm really curious, what kind of person is this Bai Yu called? It seems that I have to go out for activities. When was the last time I went out? I can't remember. Im rubbed his head. Sun said. On the second day, the first day after the end of the war, everyone's job today is to clean the battlefield and repair the Sunny. After all, they are pirates. How can this ship be broken? And this battle also caused an uproar in the pirate world. Who would have thought that since a small straw hat pirates had so much energy, and the 5 elders came out and they didn't win, what kind of concept was this? The new world of the straw hat pirates became famous for a while. Luffy it was also named the 5th emperor. However, Bai Yu, who really killed the quartet on the battlefield, has not been mentioned too much, and only those who really fought on this battlefield will know how strong this Bai Yu is. Of course, Marine will not tell this time. The incident was broadcast in its entirety. For this fight, it was a shame for Marine, and it was even more a shame for the 5 elders, since it was beaten by a hairy kid who looked like he was only in his 20s. The 5 elders are all hundreds of years old, in their eyes Bai Yu is really just a hairy child. But this is also what Bai Yu wants. He doesn't want to be too ostentatious. After all, the strong are low-key. He just needs to be a mate at ease. As for One Piece, he can leave it to Luffy. For a time, Luffy's bounty was as high as 4.2 billion Baileys, almost equal to the other 4 emperors. Many pirates who just went to sea, Luffy has also become their target, and unknowingly Luffy and his crew are one step closer to their target. Chapter 338 Auto-generated chapter title. Inspire. Lovebirds. Hideaway. 12 idyllic travel destinations for couples. 339. Sudden. Crisis. Because of Franky's sake, and it's also a water capital with good boatmen, the Sunny was repaired in just one day. And it's time for the Revolutionary Army to leave. After all, they came here for personal affairs. Who made Luffy their son and brother? It's impossible to say. But now they have more important things to do, and Luffy and the others also need to start their next adventure. Luffy, take good care of yourself, don't be so heartless anymore, but I believe that with Bai Yu and Ace by your side, you won't be too confused. Sabo looked at Luffy who was eating big meaty legs, said. Luffy has been eating for the past 2 days, and he has a big meaty leg in his hand at all times. It is estimated that yesterday's battle really made him hungry, and he has not responded yet. Well, I know, Sabo, you should also pay attention to safety and look forward to the next meeting. After saying this, Sabo jumped up on the backs of the crows, and the rest of the Revolutionary Army were also waiting. What, do you want to go on an adventure with them? The dragon looked at Sabo and looked at Luffy, who was waving his hands on the land to see them off. I also think, but I know that to overthrow the brutal rule of the celestial dragons, it is definitely not enough to rely on them alone. We also need to have our own army, although I really want to have the only adventure with these people, but I have more important things have to be done. Sabo said very firmly, this is the real thought in his heart, and this is also his original intention to join the Revolutionary Army. After saying goodbye to the Revolutionary Army, the Straw Hat Pirates repaired for a while. In the afternoon, the crew boarded the repaired Sunny and went to sea. This battle is of great significance to them, and it has also made them truly famous in this New World Grand Line. From then on, the flag of the Straw Hat Pirates will be more well known to outsiders. Because of Nami's direction, Bai Yu and the others didn't have to control where the boat was heading. The weather is good today. Bai Yu Robin is sunbathing on the deck at this time, Zoro is working out there with his huge fitness equipment, and Chopper will be tinkering with what Bai Yu gave him. Poster baby, you are going to grow up quickly, don't worry, I will give you the best food to eat and take care of you. With that, Chopper fed Katsuyu what herb he did not know. Eat, this will Katsuyu eat with relish. This Bai Yu made him speechless for a while, he couldn't understand how a summoning beast came to this world and could eat, and it was outrageous. As for Luffy, it would still be in his familiar, exclusive position, nibbling his big meaty legs on Sunny's head. In front of me, the sky that was still clear and cloudy suddenly became cloudy. Even Nami was a little overwhelmed by such a sudden change. It stands to reason that there should be no storms today. Is there a problem with monitoring? However, the weather on this Grand Line is really weird, and it is generally normal. It's just that Jinbei's fish can't be adjusted at this time. The waves are too big, and all the fish that he would have caught are lost. The bad weather continued, and the crew came to the cabin. At this time, Sanji's dinner was also ready, and the storm at this time did not delay their meal, and the hull of the boat would also be coated with a layer of fish oil by Franky. This kind of thing can isolate the connection with the outside world and can protect the ship well in the storm. He had worked so hard to repair this ship, and he didn't want it to be damaged so easily. As a boatman, sometimes a ship is more important than his life. The ship is in the presence of people. Enjoying a delicious dinner provided by Sanji, Luffy was full of praise for Sanji's craftsmanship. Sanji, the food you cook is so delicious, I want to die if I haven't eaten your food for 2 days. After all, Sanji didn't cook the banquet last night, so that's why Luffy said that. Hearing this, Sanji didn't say anything, he was used to this kind of praise from everyone. Rather than hearing praise from the rough guy Luffy, he wanted to hear praise from Robin, Nami, or Wei Wei, but unfortunately, none of them, he thought too much. Lighting a cigarette, Sanji habitually looked out at the sea through the ship's window. Seeing this, he was startled. Sanji, who originally thought it was just an ordinary storm, now saw that the scenery outside the window began to change rapidly, and the surrounding environment gradually changed from a sea to darkness. Bai Yu, who was eating, suddenly stopped eating. He also felt something wrong at the moment. The aura outside was different, and it was completely different from the aura before they entered the cabin, as if they were not in the same space. In the next second, Bai Yu and Sanji's eyes converged. Bai Yu stood up and went directly to Sanji's position. Sure enough, it was already dark outside. That kind of darkness was not ordinary darkness, it was pure darkness, a feeling of darkness. Family, it looks like we're in big trouble, Bai Yu said calmly to the crew members who were still eating. Only then did Luffy react. He stood up and came to the side of the two with his big meaty legs. Luffy was shocked by what the good guy saw. In the next second, he had already rushed out of the cabin and came to the deck. Because of the protection of fish oil, the sea water could not break through for a while, but Luffy was still shocked by what he saw. After Luffy went out first, others came out one after another. They were all curious what the hell was going on, it wasn't like that 5 minutes ago. But after 5 minutes, everything changed, and the whole scene changed. Quote. Bai Yu, what's wrong, how can this be, where is this place? Robin will come to Bai Yu's side and subconsciously hold Bai Yu's arm, only in this way can she feel safe. The next second, the Sunny began to shake violently, as if being squeezed by something. There was a loud boom, and the fish oil wrapped on the Sunny shattered. Nuo Zhao's, just when they thought they were going to be buried in the sea this time, the dark area suddenly began to light up gradually. The swaying hull also became stable at this moment. At this time, the slingshot in Usopp's hand, who was in a fighting state with a slingshot in his hand, fell to the ground. He was dumbfounded, and what he saw shocked his lungs. A huge island appeared in front of them, and the Sunny was like a toy in front of the island. And the big trees on the island, all the ancient trees are towering, and the ancient trees are extremely tall with lush branches and leaves. They had never seen such a high-level person, and everyone was stunned for a while, and their surprise was beyond words. What place is this? What island is this? Nami looked at the compass in his hand, dumbfounded. The compass kept turning by himself, obviously it was not working anymore. Looking at the way back, there is an endless sea, there is no way back at all, and there is only this huge island in sight. Chapter 339, Auto-generated chapter title. 340. Wonderful Island. There's no way out. Nami was stunned. This was the first time this had happened since she became a navigator. Since there is no way out, let's go up and take a look. It's God's will. Bai Yu looked at the panicked crew members, and apparently they were a little overwhelmed by the sudden situation. Looking at this huge towering tree, Bai Yu is a little excited now. Is there some strange thing living here, or some ancient ruins? Then let's go and have a look. Hearing Bai Yu's words, Luffy, who was standing on the bow of the Sunny with his eyes wide open, also made up his mind. Not only when Bai Yu's suggestion, it seems to be very crucial for them, and many major events seem to be directed by Bai Yu. But Luffy doesn't care about this. After all, he is for people who don't want to use their brains. There is someone who can give advice, and the crew also trust him and are willing to listen to him. It's too late for him to be happy. Favorite thing to do. For the sake of safety, Bai Yu didn't let everyone land on the island. After all, he didn't know what would happen next. If everyone went up, what would happen to the ship? The Sunny couldn't be lost. Full of unknowns. 970. Well, Robin, Luffy, Chopper, let's go ashore with me and have a look. As for the others, just wait for our news on the ship. If there is no problem, we will be back as soon as possible. As for why he chose these people, Bai Yu also has his own ideas. Robin is a historian, so only he can understand many things, while Chopper can listen to the sounds of animals and communicate with animals. This ability is here. This is especially important on an unfamiliar island, and he does not believe that such a large island does not have a single animal. Luffy, he's the captain, and with his own demands, Bai Yu can't help it. As for Zoro and Sanji, there is something wrong with these two people. If Zoro goes up to such a big island, if he gets lost, he will stay on the island forever and can't get out. Sanji is the same. First, this is a country with beautiful women, so it would be difficult to let him come back. After considering all aspects, it was decided that the three of them would go together. After getting off the boat, a few people walked towards the depths of the forest. The plants here are very large and dense. Because the trees are too tall, they can't see the way forward at all. Bai Yu took out the fairy beans he carried with him, put it under the tree, and made a mark. Bai Yu, what are you doing? Luffy looked at Bai Yu's actions at this time and was very curious, why was this good fairy bean thrown away? Make a mark. The plants here are too weird and tall. It is difficult for us to identify the direction. If we don't make a mark, I'm afraid that we will never be able to get out. In this, they look too small. Okay, but you have to save some. If we are hungry and don't eat, it will be troublesome. Listening to Luffy's words, Bai Yu was speechless for a while. The guy wanted to eat as soon as he came in, but what Luffy said was not without reason. Food is still necessary. But Bai Yu's fairy beans are enough for their consumption, so don't worry. There is no trace of human walking here. It seems that no human has been to this place for a long time. Robin grabbed a handful of dirt and put it on his nose to smell it, and then said. Hearing Robin say this, Chopper is a little scared now, and somehow, after entering here, the animal's instinct makes him a little scared. Bai Yu, Luffy, Robin, you said we won't encounter anything terrible, what should we do if we do? At this time, Chopper stammered a little, obviously scared. Don't worry, even if there is something terrible, Bai Yu and I will deal with it, and it won't hurt you. Luffy touched Chopper's antlers and said BCAA. Hearing what Luffy said, Chopper, who was crying in face, jumped directly on Luffy's shoulder and sat down, so he felt more secure. Since they were thinking about the depths of the island all the way, the loud sound of running water caught their attention. Just as they were about to walk along the sound of running water, suddenly there was a rustling sound behind them. Be careful, something is approaching like we are fast. Bai Yu was the first to discover this, and then observation hockey turned on. Sure enough, a fast-moving snake in the distance was moving fast towards them, but the snake's target didn't seem to be them. What surprised Bai Yu even more was that the snake was at least 10 meters in length, and the snake's body stretched backward, swimming fast. And the loud noise of boom rumble in front also shocked several people. What's wrong? Is it an earthquake? Is this island an earthquake? Luffy said with the huge trembling of the ground as he listened to the huge sound. Bai Yu's observation hockey is much stronger than Luffy's, so by now he already knows what they're throwing at. It's not an earthquake, it's a giant running towards them. Sure enough, 1 minute later, a huge figure appeared above the heads of several people. Although the height of this giant was a little worse than those of the towering trees, it was at least 10 meters high. Soon, the giant snake and the giant met like this. And the few people who were looking at these two giant creatures were dumbfounded. Whether it was the giant snake or the giant, it was too huge for them. Although they had seen the giants during the Summit War, the sight in front of them was too huge. The giants are obviously not the same as those, their muscles are stronger and the physique is more burly. Compared to those giants who were pirates or became marines, the first impression they gave was wild, like savages, still retaining the wildness that came with primitive people. At this time, the savage was holding a big stick in his hand, and he was starting to fight with the giant snake that was tit for tat with him. It looks like two animals are fighting each other. But what surprised them was that since this giant could use tools, looking at his appearance, it was hard to imagine that this kind of thing would use tools. Bai Yu and the others thought that these giants only had primitive fighting instincts. Sure enough, it didn't take long for the giant with the tools to gain the upper hand, and the big stick in his hand was hitting the giant snake's 7-inch position. Seeing this method, Bai Yu was even more shocked. Obviously, these things have full experience in the battle with giant snakes, and he knows that it is not easy to fight snakes in 7 inches. Originally, Bai Yu thought that this kind of thing might not have wisdom, but now it seems that they not only have wisdom, but they may not be low, so they will have to be more careful next. Chapter 340, Auto-generated chapter title. 341. Dwarves are never slaves. The battle of these behemoths would make the ground shake with every blow. Bai Yu and the others would hide under the big trees, and every time they shook, they would be thrown into the air. Just like an earthquake. Bai Yu, what should I do next? This island is really not ordinary. It doesn't matter if the tree is so big. I didn't expect that since the creatures on it are all so big, who can stand it? In their opinion, we are just like small animals. Same. Chopper was a little overwhelmed, this was the first time he had seen a savage of this size. And Luffy was reluctant to take a closer look this time, but before he could go out, he was dragged back by Chopper. Luffy, don't go, it's terrible, we'll be miserable if we find out. Chopper would be really afraid, he was very afraid of such large animals, and he was a snake, a little elk, is more afraid. Hey, okay, then let's wait and see here. Seeing Chopper's frightened expression, Luffy also scratched his head and said. Bai Yu will scan the surrounding environment with Mangekyo blood wheel eyes. In this area, only these two big guys are nearby for the time being, but there seems to be a species of the same size as them in front of them. They don't look like normal humans, but they are similar to humans. The size is about the same, a little humanoid. This Bai Yu made me very curious. Let's go, let's take a look at the depths. Bai Yu said to the people behind him. As for the battle between the giant and the giant snake, they didn't want to ask, after all, no matter who wins or loses, it doesn't matter to him. He just wanted to figure out what happened to this island and why the trees here were so lush. Walking all the way to observe the surrounding environment, suddenly there was a sound from the grass in the distance. A few people were quietly thinking about walking forward, but Bai Yu's Mangekyo blood wheel eyes had already opened. Facing such an unfamiliar environment, he had to be alert, and he had to respond before danger came. Since he selected several people, he must ensure the personal safety of them. Judging from the appearance of giants just now, this island is not simple and full of crises. Opening the grass, a dwarf who looked somewhat familiar with humans, but not quite the same, appeared in front of several people, but at this moment her feet were already black and purple. Chopper saw at first glance that this should be poisoned, and the dwarf in front of him seemed to be poisoned by something. Looking at the dwarf in front of him, Bai Yu was still alert, after all, he didn't know whether this person was good or bad. What they didn't expect was that, before they could react, the dwarf thought of running first. It's just a pity that her legs can't support her running anymore. Come on, kill me, the dwarves will never be slaves. I don't know why, the dwarf suddenly uttered such words. Hearing that the dwarf speaks the same language as them, Robin immediately became interested, which means that there may be human civilization here. As for this dwarf, since he can speak human language, he must be able to communicate with her. The armor on the dwarf looks very strong and the workmanship is also very ingenious. I am afraid that only top human craftsmen can make this level. Seeing this, Bai Yu is even more interested in the dwarf in front of him. Don't be afraid, we are not bad people, we just passed by this island unintentionally, and I see the injury on your leg now, if you don't deal with it, it may be very late. Chopper walked up to the dwarf woman and said. But when the dwarf woman saw Chopper, she was even more surprised. Since animals can talk, an elk-like animal can speak, which surprised her very much. This is the first time she has seen such a situation. Don't worry, we're not bad people, can you show me your legs now? Chopper thought about the dwarf woman walking slowly over. This leg was stabbed by a nearby poisonous weed when she went out this morning. This is also a common occurrence in their dwarf tribe, but they have no way to cure this poison. Although their manufacturing skills are very good, but in terms of medical treatment, it is very backward. This also directly led to the extremely high mortality rate of the dwarf tribe. Today, the poison in her has actually declared her death, but the poison has not yet spread completely. It will take time, but it is only a matter of time. Because no one of the dwarves can cure this poison. It is not easy for the dwarves to survive on this huge island. In fact, the dwarf woman is still wary of the few people in front of her at this moment, but since they can communicate with her normally, and if the poison is not treated, she will not be able to live for long, so she can only take a risk. Although the ancestral motto of the tribe is not to have too many interactions with other races, it is an emergency after all. Chopper saw that the dwarf woman did not resist as violently as just now, but also came directly to the woman, took off the woman's shoes, lifted the woman's leg, and pierced the woman's leg with a silver needle. Black blood gushed out. Oh, it hurts. The dwarf woman cried out in pain. It's okay, it's okay, it's a healing process that has to go through. After this first step, Chopper took baby Katsuyu out of his pocket. Point 0. At this time, Chopper has completely communicated with Katsuyu, and can communicate with Katsuyu in his heart. After some conversation, he crawled directly along Chopper's hand and slowly climbed onto the dwarf woman's leg. The next second Gaiu's unique the green light turns on again. This is to suck out the remaining toxins remaining in the woman's body for the woman, after all, there is no way to deal with it only with silver needles. As baby Katsuyu started to work, the first reaction of the dwarf women was that the originally aching legs had begun to ease, and the black blood was gradually sucked out little by little. Chopper took out the gauze in the backpack and bandaged it, smeared some herbs on it, and helped the dwarf woman bandage it. Okay, there's basically no problem, it only takes a few days to recover and you can be alive and kicking like before. Chopper said happily. For him, being able to save a life is a very happy thing. Looking at her legs that had returned to their original color, the dwarf woman seemed to see some kind of miracle. You must know that in their tribe, being contaminated with this toxin means that death has been declared. So far, no dwarf tribe can be contaminated. Survive with this toxin. Thank you, your medical skills are really brilliant. At this time, the dwarf women had already let go of these outsiders. After all, in her opinion, these people were her saviors. 0. Chapter 341, Auto-generated chapter title. 342, Dwarven Tribe. It's okay. Since meeting is fate, the poison in you is not too bad, it's just a little effort for me. Chopper would be overjoyed after being praised by the dwarf woman. Okay, now can you tell me what your name is, and what's going on here? Bai Yu, said the woman, who had gotten better. The woman looked at Bai Yu. She was most afraid of Bai Yu among this group of people, because Bai Yu's eyes were too deep and terrifying to her. Here, this is Giant Island. I'm Lilim from the dwarves. I think you've just seen it. The battle between the two big guys, but this kind of thing is very common on this island. That giant, it's the clan of giants. Huh, Giant Island. Bai Yu and the others finally understood after Lilim said this. No wonder the 970 trees and monsters here are so huge, it's not surprising that it is called Giant Island. The food and plants here can catalyze the growth of the giants, so the giants can get bigger and bigger. Lilim explained. It's getting dark, and if you haven't settled down after dark, it will be very dangerous in the dark, and there will be unknown creatures attacking the creatures. I think you are here on the first day, and you will definitely not be able to find them. We've settled down, why don't you go back to the tribe with me first? Lilim has already started to invite Bai Yu and the others to the tribe. After all, in Lilim's view, this group of people is a treasure. Since her wounds can be healed, in that case, the deeply poisoned members of the tribe may also be able to saved. She didn't want to see any people die because of this mandala flower. Know that this mandala flower kills hundreds of dwarves every year with its poison. But for some reason, this mandala flower only seems to have poisonous effects on the dwarves. Giants or other biological races have never recorded poisoning and death. This makes the dwarves very curious, and there are even dwarves. Think it's God's punishment for them. Alright, if that's the case, then we'll trouble you. Luffy looked at Lilim and said, he still had a good impression of Lilim in front of him. After all, this chubby-looking woman looks very attractive. Like the type, you can see that he is a kind person. Bai Yu will be a little speechless. He still hasn't figured out if what this woman is saying is true. When you come to this unfamiliar territory, you should be a little more cautious. This is how their captains do things according to their own consciousness. Come on, this bothers Bai Yu too. But since Luffy has already decided, he can only listen to him. After all, if something really happens, Bai Yu thinks he can solve it with his current ability. A few people followed Lilim all the way to the depths of the forest, and gradually Bai Yu could feel a hint of fireworks, which should be about to reach the camp. Sure enough, after passing through a grass, several people saw the dwarf elf tribe. It's just that this tribe is different from what they thought. Originally, they thought that a tribe with such a backward medical treatment should be very poor, but looking at the scene in front of them did not make them sigh. The houses here are very well groomed, just like a city, although the living environment is different from that of humans, but the style of defense is beautiful, and all kinds of dwarf elves are doing their own things. When the first dwarf elf saw Bai Yu's group of people, he was stunned for a moment, and then began to run away. The originally lively gathering camp suddenly became empty. Several people who saw this situation were dumbfounded. What's the situation? Why did they all run away? And this speed is too fast. Even the wine that the dwarf elves drank on the table just now still has ripples, showing the scene of someone drinking here just now. Lilim scratched her head a little embarrassedly and said, hey, don't suggest, we dwarf tribesmen are less timid, so they instinctively avoid strangers, but everyone is good, don't worry too much, this will take you to meet our chief. As he spoke, he walked in front, while the dwarf tribal elves who were all hiding in the dark and secretly watching the group of uninvited guests. They haven't seen humans for too long, and they only know about the human species in some ancient books. On this huge island, it is like a small world, with all kinds of species and creatures exclusively here. A few people followed Lilim for about 10 minutes before arriving at their destination. To their surprise, the chief's residence was very ornate and resplendent, and even the gate seemed to be gilded, giving it a solemn look. Luxurious feeling. Wow, the chief here must be rich, since the gates are all gold. Luffy's eyes lit up when he saw the golden gate. He had never seen such a gate before, it was too gorgeous. After the two guards at the door saw a few people, the spears in their hands also raised at this moment. He kept giving out warnings. Bai Yu and the others were aliens to them, and the dwarves never wanted to see aliens. These are my benefactors, and they have a way to deal with the toxins of mandala flowers. When they heard that the mandala poison could be processed, the two guards looked at each other. In their dwarves, when they talked about mandala flowers, they all smelled the flowers. In their eyes, mandala flowers were from hell. The evil flower that grows. Really? The guard asked incredulously. He couldn't believe that these unremarkable things in front of him would have this ability. After all, they are dwarves, so their aesthetics are also different. In their opinion, Bai Yu and the others both have this ability. Ugly, only their dwarven elves are the best looking. Of course it's true, I was infected with mandala poison today, but now I have been cured, so I will bring them to see the chief, maybe they have a way to deal with the poisonous harm brought by this mandala flower. Quote. Lilim is still trying to talk to the guards. After all, if 0.0 wants to meet the chief, the guards are the first step. There is also a strict hierarchy system here. The chief is the absolute ruler here and has the absolute right to speak. Any major event can only be implemented with his consent. Well, wait here, I'll report to you. After hearing Lilim's serious expression, he knew that Lilim didn't lie to them, and immediately said that he opened the door and went in to report. After about 5 minutes, the guard who had just entered came out. The chief agrees with you, but you must prove your worth, otherwise, you may have to go out to feed the night demon tonight. The so-called night waste is what Lilim said before, the predators of the night that only appear at night, and no one here has seen their appearance. Chapter 342, Auto-generated chapter title. The best traditional dishes of different countries. Learn more. 343. Dwarf Chieftain. Hearing Lilim say this, Luffy started to get a little worried. You must know that the people on the boat don't know the existence of this thing, what if it is attacked at night? Fortunately, when Luffy asked Lilim, he learned that night predators would not leave the forest, and they could not leave the shelter of the forest. The specific reason was unclear. Hearing this, Luffy was relieved. Led by the guards, a few people approached the castle. The decoration in the castle is very luxurious, which can be described as luxurious. Whether it is the carved stone tools or the armor made into the display, it looks very sophisticated. Wow, this dwarf looks so rich, if Nami saw these things, he would definitely be envious. Luffy said while walking, touching these items. At this time, Bai Yu did not relax. He used Sharingan to scan everything here. After all, this is an unfamiliar place. Although he could see that this Lilim had no ill will towards them, it was not a race after all. After a few minutes' journey, several people came to the 12th hall. The hall is very large and looks like a palace. The decoration inside is also very simple, but what Bai Yu surprised them is that since there are several items, a sword that dwarves can't use and a hat that only humans can wear, it looks like a sea thief hat. But at this time, Bai Yu seemed to have found something. It turned out that there were quite a few dwarf soldiers in the frescoes in the main hall with weapons in their hands eager to try. Hee, as I expected, it's not that simple. Bai Yu smiled after discovering the mystery, but he didn't plan to go to war directly. Now he is more curious about what is going on with this tribe, and they have how are you going to deal with them. Inside the hall, sitting on the front throne was a young woman. The woman was wearing a cloak and a crown. At a glance, you could tell that she was the chief. The guard who just brought them in saw the woman and saluted directly. Lord Chief, someone has already brought them here. After speaking, he walked to the side directly. And Bai Yu would be a little surprised by this, since the woman in front of him was a chief. This woman seemed to be a few years older than them, since she had already become a chief. Seemingly seeing the thoughts of several people, Lilim said, "Don't look at the young chief, she is actually 7 to 80 years old this year, but the lifespan of our dwarves is much longer than that of your humans, so this age can still maintain such a look." Hearing Lilim say this, everyone suddenly realized. I just said, how can there be such a young chief, it turns out to be like this. Chopper will have a small expression of understanding. At this time, the woman on the throne spoke, her voice was very solemn and calm, and it could be seen that she had the temperament of a superior. Humans, why do you want to come to our tribe, and what is your purpose? There was a deviation from the picture everyone imagined. The woman didn't seem to like their group of outsiders, and there was displeasure in her tone. Hearing the woman's tone, Lilim felt a bad breath, and immediately knelt down on one knee and said to the throne, "Lord Chief, they are the benefactors who saved me, they treated my mandala flower. Poison." He said that he had just been picked up by Chopper. When she heard the mandala flower, the woman was obviously moved, and it could be seen that the mandala flower had a very high status in this tribe. Since there are people who can treat the toxin of the mandala flower, you know what happens to those who trespass into my tribe without authorization. As soon as this sentence fell, a huge net suddenly appeared above the heads of several people, and it was spread out. When the net touched a few people, they suddenly felt powerless. Could it be sea stone? Robin thought of this the first time he touched a few people on the internet, but this sea stone was a godsend for someone with the fruit ability, and they lost their combat effectiveness in an instant. This also surprised Bai Yu. What he didn't expect was that the dwarves knew that they were capable people, and they would use sea stone to counter it, which made Bai Yu even more curious. Although he is not a fruit power user, sea stone is useless to him, but now he has to pretend to be affected by sea stone. After all, he wants to see what is going on with this dwarf race, and how they know how to deal with fruit power of the person. At this time, Lilim was also frightened when she saw everything in front of her. She didn't expect what the chief would do. He immediately knelt down and pleaded with a few people. "Respected chiefs, they are all good people, they have saved my life, and they can treat mandala flower poison. If we can learn from them about the medical knowledge of removing mandala flower poison, our the dwarves won't die every year because of the mandala flower." Enough. Needless to say, human beings are unforgivable. The next second, the guards who were hiding behind the murals who were discovered by Bai Yu also came out. "Detain them all. Without my order, no one is allowed to visit them." When he said this, the chief also deliberately looked at Lilim, who was kneeling on the ground at this time. "Stay on, I don't want to see humans." After saying that, he walked towards the back hall without looking back. And Bai Yu's group was also taken directly to the prison by the guards. A few hours later, the properties of the people affected by seastone were changed, but to their surprise, the prison cells here were also made entirely of seastone, and the workmanship was very good. Touching his dizzy forehead, Luffy was speechless for a while. Damn it, how many people have been plotted? These dwarves are not good people, we are still going to help them. Said, another punch hit the fence of the cell, but these fences were all its seastone, and now Luffy is a little dizzy again. Only Robin looked at Bai Yu suspiciously and said, Bai Yu, I remember that seastone should have no effect on you. With their abilities, there should be no way to trap you. Why are you being caught with us? Closed. Hearing what Robin said, Bai Yu smiled, then walked over to Robin and scratched Robin's little nose and said, Hey, you're still smart, seastone really doesn't work for me, and those soldiers don't work for me either. What? But I wonder what these dwarves are going to do to us, and why the female chief hates humans so much. Don't you want to know the secrets inside? That is, did you let them catch you on purpose? Of course. Chapter 343 Auto-generated chapter title. 344. The Chief's Decision. In fact, if Bai Yu wanted to get out, this kind of cell couldn't hold him at all, and he couldn't take a punch in this cell. Grumpy. At this point Luffy's stomach growled. Wow, I'm so hungry, when will dinner be served? Luffy complained. It's just that this place is a prison, and now you can't eat what you want. But Bai Yu was already prepared. He took out a few fairy beans from his pocket and handed them to Luffy. Although this kind of thing is only the size of a bean, it is enough to eat it. Although it has no taste, it is special now, period. If it was under normal circumstances, Luffy would definitely not eat this when he was hungry. After all that thigh meat, wouldn't he taste good wine? Bai Yu, how long did you say they were going to lock us up? Robin said, looking around at their situation. I think we should know the answer soon. As soon as Bai Yu finished speaking, footsteps came from the entrance of the cell in the distance. As the footsteps got closer, the figure of the chief appeared in front of everyone. After seeing this chief with a few looks, everyone's faces were not very good at this time. After all, in their opinion, this chief was locked up for them for no reason. They saved their clansmen, so how could it be considered a favor to them? You can really cure mandala poison, the chief said after watching the people in the cell for a few seconds. At this time, the chief's tone did not seem to be as cold as before, but he was still serious. Of course, I believe that Lilim has already told you the whole thing, my dear Chief Majesty, we are not bad people, we are just passing adventurers who happen to pass by this island. Robin looked at the female chief and said sincerely. She could see from the female chieftain's eyes that this female chieftain was not bad. Standing in front of the cell and pacing for a while, the female chief left. Hey, let us out. See, the female chief just left. Luffy was a little too angry, and immediately began to grab the fence subconsciously. With this swipe, the effect of Seastone was activated again, and Luffy immediately froze again, and the cell was quiet. In the hall, the female chief is talking to Lilim. Mother, the Straw Hat crew are really not bad people, they did save me, I can assure you that they won't hurt us, they won't do anything to hurt our tribe, on the contrary, they can save our tribe, I remember when I was very young, didn't you say that human beings are a good race? Why do you hate human beings so much now? Lilim was very puzzled as to why her mother had undergone such a transformation. Enough, don't talk about it anymore, don't worry about this matter anymore, I will make my own decision. The female chief walked out of the hall after saying this. Come to the street. It was already afternoon, because the arrival of Bai Yu and others also made the people on the street feel panic. Most of them have never seen human beings, at most they have seen records in ancient books. The first time I saw a real person was still very shocking, and of course I was also afraid. They don't know what the purpose of these human beings is and whether they will pose a threat to them. This dwarf tribe can no longer bear any blows now. When they saw the female chief, everyone would greet them warmly. Among them, there were some civilians who were poisoned by mandala. This kind of poison is very common in dwarf tribes, but it cannot be treated. Almost every day, people are poisoned by this kind of flower. This is because the dwarf tribe is surrounded by this poisonous flower. Every time they want to go out, the dwarves, more or less, will touch the mandala to the flower. As for poisoning or not, in fact, mostly depends on luck. This toxin is a chronic toxin and will not die immediately, but it will slowly spread from the infected place over time, the pain will gradually increase, and eventually the toxicity will spread throughout the body, and the poisoned person will die. Dead dwarves are very painful in their final moments. The female chief couldn't bear to see this dwarf clansman whose toxin had reached his neck, like his greeting, but she couldn't do anything about it. When the toxin reaches this time, the next step is the brain. At most 3 days, at least one day, the dwarf in front of him will die. It was as if he had been given an ultimatum, but he was still alive and strong. At this moment, the female chief suddenly heard what her daughter had just said to herself. Can those Straw Hat crew really save our people? Can they really take us out of the fear of this mandala flower? Thinking of this, she is not hesitating. Now she can no longer hesitate. Whether it is true or not, she can only try. She realizes that every second she hesitates, there may be a mandala flower. The dwarf clansman who was attacked by toxin fell, and she didn't want to and couldn't see this happening again. In the cell, Chopper looked in the direction of the door in dismay. Quote. Bai Yu, Luffy, Robin, we won't be locked up here forever. I don't want to stay here forever. I still have great dreams unfulfilled. Saying that, Chopper was about to cry. Don't worry, this female chief will be back soon. Bai Yu said confidently. Sure enough, the next second, the door was opened again, and this time it was the female chief who came back. I can let you out, but you must promise me a few conditions. The female chief said decisively. Tell me about it. Bai Yu said, looking at the female chief with narrowed eyes. I need you to treat our clansmen who were infected by mandala flowers, and I need you to leave the treatment formula. The female chief looked at Bai Yu firmly, and then glanced at the people behind Bai Yu and said. What can we get, Nuo Zhao's? Bai Yu said calmly. After all, we did have people who treated you before, and Lilim should be your daughter, right? Bai Yu's eyes were burning. Hearing what Bai Yu said, the female chief was obviously stunned. You must know that Lilim didn't say anything about her relationship with the female chief before. How did Bai Yu know, and they were already locked in the prison, since the man in front of her still dares to negotiate conditions with her? There is no free lunch in the world. I think you also know that since you want us to save your clansmen, you must pay the corresponding price. Bai Yu continued. After hesitating for a moment, the female chief who seemed to have figured it out said, What do you want? Talk about it. As long as it's not too much, I can satisfy it. Now she has no choice, she must get the mandala flower. The rescue formula is the only way to make the clansmen feel at ease. Chapter 344, Auto-generated chapter title. Light. The best traditional dishes of different countries. Best culinary dishes of world. 345. Mutual benefit and win-win. We need your casting skills, and of course we will exchange them with medical skills, and we will also help you deal with the mandala flower poison of your tribe. In fact, Bai Yu had already taken a fancy to the casting technology of this dwarf tribe. As early as when he came to this tribe, he knew that this tribe's craftsmanship was not ordinary. Whether it's the renovation of the house or the weapons of the soldiers, they are all very sophisticated. Obviously, very few humans can do these. Technology can rise to another level. This is the real reason why Bai Yu doesn't have a head-on conflict with the dwarves. Only cooperation can win-win, and force can't solve everything, and he can see from the female chief's eyes that their tribe is not greedy for life and fear of death. If there is a real fight, although he is confident that he can win, it is meaningless. After thinking for a moment, the chief still agreed. Now for her, mandala poison is the top priority. Cooperation. Happy, Bai Yu stretched his hand out of the cell door and shook hands with the female chief. This move also made the female chief look at the man in front of her with admiration. She knew that the fences of these cells were all special. In order to limit the human ability, they all used sea stone, but it was obvious that the man just touched the sea stone, but there was no response. That is to say, men are not fruit capable. However, the female chief did not show anything, but directly asked the guards to release a few people. Luffy, who had regained his freedom, was so happy that he kept moving his muscles and bones, and began to squat and jump. Please keep your promises. Of course, I will keep mine too, but only after you fulfill your promises. The female chief said again. No problem, Chopper, it's over to you. Bai Yu said to Chopper standing behind him. He doesn't know anything about medicine, so he can only rely on Chopper. Don't worry, everyone, mandala flowers are not scary, I will finish the task soon. After that, he followed the female chief. When they came to the street, after seeing the female chief, the people on the street still had the same reaction, that is, bowing, but when they saw several humans with the female chief, they were all stunned, but this time they did not run away, because the sheiks are here, and they know that these humans can't possibly hurt them. Okay, let me announce one thing to you. These doctors are invited by us to treat the poisoning of datura flowers for us. I hope you can actively cooperate with their work, BCAA everyone. It will definitely get better. Mandala toxins are not terrible, we will defeat them in the future. An exciting speech has obviously aroused the fighting spirit of the dwarves. It was only then that Bai Yu discovered that there were quite a few people on the street who were poisoned by mandala flower poison, in 2s and 3s, at any age. At this time, he finally knew why the female chief would compromise. There was no way. Mandara's influence on their tribe was so great that she had to compromise. Okay, distinguished guests, let's start. After speaking, the female chief brought them to a shack that had already been set up. This will be where you will be working in the next few days. I will let all the clansmen who have been poisoned by mandala come over for treatment. Of course, before that, I hope you don't run around. After all, these clansmen may not have I fully accept you and hope you can understand. No problem, but we have to prepare enough wine and meat for us. I'm really hungry. Luffy touched his stomach, which had begun to growl for some reason. No problem, let's start now. The guards began to make preparations in an orderly manner, and arranged for those who had been infected with datura to start queuing for medical treatment. Soon, the long queue lined up, and Lilim also came to help. The first time the female chief promised to release Straw Hat Crew, she received the news and rushed over immediately. Let me help you, although I don't know how to treat, but I can help you bandage. Lilim is very happy now, and her mother's willingness to release them is an affirmation for them. In her opinion, this is also her mother with her disguised trust. She felt that her promise was still effective in her mother. As the queue got longer and longer, Chopper had already started the treatment. The treatment method was also very simple. He used a silver needle to bleed, and then let you suck out the remaining toxins, and then treated, and then applied medicine. In fact, for Chopper, this so-called mandala flower poison is just an ordinary poison. He only needs to treat the wound and apply the ordinary poison dispelling powder. Of course, these poison dispelling powders are prepared by him early in the morning. In the afternoon, they have treated most of the clansmen. Those who have been treated have a much better complexion on their faces, and even the severe pain that had been bothering them before is now gone. They were so refreshed and even knelt down and kowtowed to the Straw Hat crew. In their opinion, treating them with Datura toxin was the benefactor who gave them a second life. Since childhood, in their concept, the mandala flower is an evil flower from hell, which will deprive the dwarves of their lives. Once they are caught, they are not far from death, which is also God's punishment for them. But now, they are saved and are no longer tortured by toxins. For them, there is nothing more gratifying than this. The female chief watched the whole treatment process. To put it bluntly, she was still a little uneasy. After all, these foreigners had not gained enough trust in her, but as more and more people completed the treatment, the female chief was very concerned about Straw Hat Crew's treatment. The vigilance is slowly disappearing. The night gradually darkened, and the female chief also ordered to continue working tomorrow. After all, the night is still very scary for the dwarves, and the dwarf tribe stipulates that they cannot go out at night. This also does not give the night demons a chance. Why aren't they lighting the lights yet? Luffy said, looking at the darkening sky. The light was getting darker and darker, and the guard came over at this time. Please come with me. After that, he led the way. Although it is night, the eyesight of the dwarves is very good, they can see things clearly at night, but Luffy and the others can't, they can only grope with the faint moonlight. Soon, they came to their residence, and the torches were lit. I'm sorry, distinguished guests, because of the tribe's regulations, there can be no fire outside the house at night. This is mainly because it does not give Yimo an opportunity. This is where you rest. As for the food, someone will bring it here. After saying all this, the guards went out. It's just that when he went out, the torch in his hand was extinguished by him. Chapter 345 Auto-generated chapter title. Light. The best traditional dishes of different countries. Best culinary dishes of world. 346. Weird old man. Bai Yu saw this behavior of the guards, and he was full of curiosity at this time, but now is not the time. After all, this is the rule of the tribe, and they are now in a cooperative relationship with the tribe, so they have to respect their traditions, but Bai Yu he decided that before leaving this island, he had to figure out what the so-called night demon was. The room is big and luxuriously decorated inside, it looks like a hotel, to their surprise, since there is hot water in it, and it's a simple shower. This Bai Yu is very surprised, to know that he has never seen a shower in this world, this is the first time, and it seems that this technology is quite mature. Seeing this, Bai Yu became more curious about the technology and craftsmanship of the dwarves. It's such a magical place. Bai Yu, you said we made a deal with them, will they default on the debt later? Robin came to Bai Yu and said. Bai Yu would be fascinated by the technology of these dwarves. The more he explored, the more he felt that this dwarf tribe was not simple. Bai Yu. Robin was stunned when he saw Bai Yu's expression. She didn't know the shower. In her opinion, the shower might just be a decoration, but Robin wouldn't think it was a place to take a bath. I don't think they should be so stupid. I think that female chief is a smart person, she should not take risks and joke about the safety of their clan. Besides, even if they repent, do you think they can do something to us with their force? Chu Feng smiled and looked at Robin. And now Luffy and Chopper have both started to sleep soundly. For them, they are probably very tired today, and these two heartless people will not think about it. After their daily work is completed, the rest is over, this is their idea, very simple. Robin, you know, this is the place to take a bath. Bai Yu said, pointing to the device that looked like a shower head. After Bai Yu said this, Robin also became interested. She had never seen the so-called shower. She actually saw it at first, but she thought it was a decoration. There are decorations, which seem to be deliberately showing their craftsmanship. The place to take a bath, but there is no bathtub, and where does this water come from? Robin probed into the facilities and said. This is a bit beyond her understanding. After all, in this One Piece world, she has never seen a shower, and every time she takes a bath, she uses a bathtub. As for the water, it is boiled and poured into it. After seeing that Robin really didn't know, Bai Yu went up to demonstrate, turned the switch, and sure enough water came out, and it was still hot water. Look, there will be hot water. Robin was surprised when he saw that there was actually hot water coming out. You take a shower first, you've been tired all day, don't worry, I'll help you watch outside. The bathroom is relatively user-friendly, and it is covered by a screen, so as long as Chu Feng is watching from the outside, there is no need to worry. Okay, then I'll try. This was the first time Robin had used a shower, and she was full of curiosity. Half an hour later, Robin came out with wet hair. The pretty face that was flushed with water vapor still had water droplets stuck on it, which was very moving. This Bai Yu can't help but want to go up and kiss. Seeing Bai Yu's actions, Robin didn't dodge, but closed his eyes. This kiss was like an electric shock. Bai Yu, Robin, why are you still not sleeping, aren't you tired? Suddenly, Luffy's voice came from a room in the distance, which shocked the two of you, like two people cheating the same was found. Just fell asleep. Bai Yu responded casually. What he didn't know was that Luffy was actually talking in his sleep, he didn't wake up at all. This episode also directly affected the two of them. After the two looked at each other and smiled, Bai Yu kissed Robin again, and then went in to take a bath. How many times did you wake up at noon the next day? The reason for waking up was because Luffy was hungry and called for food everywhere, only to find out that the food had already been prepared when he walked out of the door. These dwarves are quite good, and they didn't bother us knowing that we would sleep in. Because of this, Bai Yu has a little more affection for these dwarves, and the hospitality of these dwarves is still acceptable. After a few people walked out of the room, there were already guards waiting outside the door. After all, it was noon, and their mission today should also begin. For flowers 00. Still the same as yesterday, to the place of yesterday. But this first patient seems to be abnormal. He was an old man who was forcibly carried over by several guards. The old man was wearing armor, and although his face was gray, his eyes were still bright. Bai Yu just glanced at it and knew that this old man was different from ordinary dwarves. He was probably some kind of leader. Chief Renekton, this is the order of the chief. All those who have been poisoned by mandala must be treated. Seeing that the old man refused to obey, the guards who were pulling him had to move out of the chief to persuade him. In the dwarf tribe, the chief's order is an absolute order and cannot be resisted. Point 0. Hearing this, the old man named Lake Naden stopped. I don't believe that there is really someone in this world who can cure the toxins produced by that evil flower. That is God's punishment for us sinners. Although the old man walked towards them, his mouth was still incessant, talking about something. After approaching, Bai Yu realized that the old man's whole body had turned purple, which meant that he had spent a long time in the mandala, but what surprised him was that even so, since the old man could still walk like a normal person. You know, he saw Lilim's condition before, so even the poison in her calf could make her unable to stand. Obviously, the old man in front of him was unusual. Just when Bai Yu looked at the old man's eyes also looked like Bai Yu. With just one glance, the old man was taken aback for a moment, and then he became thoughtful. But didn't say anything, so he came to Chopper's side. It's still according to the usual routine. Although the old man's situation is already very bad, in Chopper's eyes, this is nothing. In the past day, he has thoroughly studied the so-called flower of hell. With a breath, Chopper is confident that he can bring back the person who has been hit by this poison. Of course, this is also thanks to the Katsuyu that Bai Yu gave to Chopper. For some reason, Katsuyu has super purifying properties for this toxin, and when combined with the drug developed by Chopper, this toxin is simply vulnerable. 0. Chapter 346 Auto-generated chapter title. 347. Dwarf Chieftain Token. Is it them? The old man said, looking at Bai Yu and the others in the shack. Yes, Chief Lei. They are the doctors invited by the chief. Hearing what the guard said, the old man sat directly in front of Chopper. Then see if the old man is still saved. When the old man said this, his expression was calm, and the first impression he gave people was that he didn't care about the harm this so-called mandala flower caused to his body. Although the old man looked very old, he was in good spirits. If it wasn't for his gray hair, no one would be able to tell his age. Chopper is still the same as healing other dwarves. First pierced the old man's arm with a silver needle. The old man's condition is very serious, and now the poison has spread all over the body. Chopper reasoned that without their presence, the old man might not have lived for a month. Renekton, 970, was still a little conflicted when he saw that Chopper was bleeding himself with a silver needle. After all, Chopper is not a person of their race, and is still a bit grumpy at heart. But look at Chopper's skillful approach. Renekton didn't say much, but actively cooperated with Chopper's treatment. After all, this was the chief's order. There was no way he could go against it. As soon as Chopper took a needle, the blood slowly flowed out from the silver needle. The blood at this time is no longer bright red, but the purple of the mandala flower. This is the blood of the person who has been caught in the mandala flower, and the deeper the poisoning, the tighter the blood will be, until the blood turns black at last. Of course, wait until the moment when the blood turns black. Basically declared dead. When Chopper got his first shot in Renekton, he found that the toxins from the datura flower seemed to be receding at an alarming rate. From the direction of the silver needle on his neck, it flows slowly. Renekton didn't think so. In front of this thing that looks like a deer, the technique is so superb. The next time is when Katsuyu performs, again in the same way, placing Katsuyu on the patient's wound. Because there is spiritual communication with Chopper. So even if Chopper didn't speak, Katsuyu knew what to do next. Laozi's poison is deep, so it's time for treatment. Also relatively long. However, Since he started to suck the remaining toxins, the old man's eyes were full of surprise. He did not expect that the group of people in front of him could really cure the poison of the mandala flower, which is the flower of hell from hell. He had been poisoned for several months. In this tribe, the poison of mandala flower means death. As early as a few months ago, he had already explained his funeral. But in fact, he was very unwilling in his heart. After all, his wish has not been realized, and his lofty ambition has not been realized. In this way, I was poisoned by the mandala flower. In his view, this is God's punishment for him. His hands were covered in blood. Although those are the blood of aliens. Okay, old man, you're all right now, Chopper said now, taking out bandages and gauze to wrap Renekton's wound. What? Okay. Renekton was shocked. In just a few short minutes, has the mandala flower toxin that has plagued him for half a year been cured by this little devil in front of him? Although he didn't believe it, the healthy skin seemed to tell him that it was all true. He glanced at the wound that had been bandaged. Renekton didn't speak, turned his head and left. And the guards who had been standing on one side looked a little embarrassed. After all, these people are all benefactors to them. But the attitude of the leader of Renekton is really not good. I'm sorry, distinguished guests, Mr. Renekton has this kind of personality. The guard touched his head, and then said embarrassedly. After saying this, he followed the old man away. At this time, Bai Yu's Mangekyo Sharingan has been opened. In fact, he has already checked the old man's situation as early as just now. The old man is indeed much stronger than the average dwarves. When he was surprised, this old man was actually a demon fruit power. It was also the first demon fruit power he encountered in this tribe. It's not so strange that Bai Yu was thinking about the Seastone prison before. After the old man left, the rest of the dwarves were relatively normal, and basically they would say thank you after being treated. Another day spent in treatment. Today, because the treatment time is quite long, almost all the dwarf people who have been infected with the mandala flower poison have basically been treated. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. The female chief went on to say, this is my exclusive token. Seeing this token is equivalent to seeing me. It has absolute power in this tribe. Of course, if you want to enter the foundry, this token will be your passport. All the skills you want can be learned there. Hearing what the female chief said, even Bai Yu was moved. Thank you, everyone, we have seen all the hard work in the past 2 days. As for the conditions that we promised you before, we will honor our promises. No one knew that the female chief, who left the Straw Hat Crew residence, would fall into memory. In fact, there are eyeliners watching them every day. The female chiefs naturally know what they are doing every day, but they still have to do what they say. Then thank you, Chief. Luffy took the token and glanced at the words on it, and sure enough he couldn't understand it. At this time, the attitude of the female chieftain was different from before. After all, they have left too many clansmen in the past 2 days. To the female chief, to the entire dwarf tribe, they are all benefactors. After all these were explained, the female chief left. She had given the best thing she could to Straw Hat Crew, which was a repayment for her, and she learned from the observations of the past few days and her direct analysis, the current Straw Hat Crew is not a bad guy. After you finished speaking, the captain took out a token from his pocket. The token was only the size of a palm, and it was engraved with some symbols that Bai Yu did not recognize. Strange to say, every time she sees Bai Yu, she will think of an old friend. Their temperament is very similar, and even the absolute confidence in their eyes is the same. If it is as the female chief said, then this token is too awesome. The dwarf tribe has been a race with clear grudges since ancient times. Since Straw Hat Crew is kind to them, Straw Hat Crew is a guest here. And no danger to her tribe. At night, the female chief came to the residence of several people and asked about the situation. After taking a look, he handed the token to Bai Yu. He doesn't want to take care of these things, isn't he good to be a hands-off shopkeeper? Anyway, he doesn't have to worry about Bai Yu. Bai Yu will definitely take care of everything. I haven't seen each other for many years, you heartless person, where did you go to, and you agreed to come pick me up, I'll wait for 50 years. 11. Speaking of 0.0, if there is no Bai Yu, they may not be so smooth this time. Not to mention they will become the VIP of this tribe. Chapter 347, Auto-generated chapter title. Light. The best traditional dishes of different countries. Best culinary dishes of world. 348. A new enemy. In the room, Bai Yu looked at the token in his heart. With this token, the Straw Hat Pirates will definitely become stronger. But before that, we have to pick up the group of people on the boat. They have been here for 2 days, and the boat does not know what is going on. However, I heard from the dwarves that the Night Devil will not leave the forest, even the giants. It's not time to leave the forest, and Bai Yu is relieved. The people on the ship still have some fighting power, and they can't be helped without a few Admiral level 1s. Let's rest early today. I will bring everyone on board every day, and let them also come to observe the technology of this dwarf. Bai Yu looked at the crowd and said. But it doesn't need him to say that. After all, Chopper and Luffy are the type who fall asleep after taking the bed. Bai Yu looked at Luffy's sleeping position and was speechless. Let's Sleep too. Robin looked at Bai Yu gently. Silent all night. On the second day, everyone woke up very early. After all, when there was business, Robin would wake everyone up early. Otherwise, Luffy's character 12 would have to sleep until noon at least before waking up. After saying hello to the female chief, several people set foot on the journey back. Mark had been done before, and Lilim became their guide after consulting with the female chief. Although there are signs on the way, but 2 days have passed, they don't know whether the signs are still there. If the signs are gone, then in this strange forest, they may really get lost. So it would be best to find Lilim as their guide. Lilim is very familiar with this generation. She was originally a scout of the dwarf tribe. A few people quickly walked out of the tribe. Fortunately, the mark set before is still there, which also saved them a lot of time. After walking for about an hour, a few people walked out of the forest, but when Lilim saw the boat, he could only watch silently. He couldn't get out of the forest. Something in the bones. In the end, they decided to wait in Lilim, and after they called the crew, they returned to the dwarven tribe together. On the sunny in the distance, Usopp was looking at the forest with his binoculars. This was what he had been doing for the past 2 days, in order to see Bai Yu and the others coming back as soon as possible. Although there is food and drink on the boat, it is still very uncomfortable to stay on the boat. Besides, Bai Yu, Luffy and several people have been in for 2 days, and there is no news. They will inevitably be a little worried. They had a meeting last night, and if a few people haven't come back today, they will send the second team to look for it. When the few people walked out of the forest for the first time, they were discovered by Usopp. They're back, they're all back, and there doesn't seem to be any trace of battle. It seems that the forest is very safe, Usopp said after observing a few people carefully. This is too important for a coward like him, who is very afraid of the unknown. Now it seems that everything is normal. Bai Yu, are they back? Nami this will say after hearing Usopp's call on the deck. As a navigator, she is now the most hated one. The compass in her hand has not left for the past 2 days, but it has been swaying randomly all the time, as if something is interfering with the normal operation of the compass. Bai Yu got closer and closer, and finally got on the boat. How is it? Did anything strange happen to everyone on the boat, or encountered any strange creatures? Bai Yu asked the first time he came to the boat. After all, he didn't know if the night demon had ever visited the sunny. No, everything has been normal for the past 2 days, and there has been no movement. It has been like this since you entered the forest, and there is no wind or waves at sea. Nami replied. She didn't know why Bai Yu said this suddenly. Look, come on, what happened to them? What? Did you encounter anything strange after entering the forest? Nami asked suspiciously. Afterwards, Bai Yu told everyone on the boat everything that happened after they entered the forest. Everyone would be a little skeptical, but Bai Yu said it, and obviously he wouldn't lie to them. And Luffy has already gone in to find something to eat. Sanji, are you ready for lunch? I'm starving. Although the food of the dwarves is delicious, it's still a lot worse than the food you make. Then what are you going to do next? Jinbei came to the group and said, obviously he also wanted to go in and see what was going on inside. What I mean is that we all go in to repair and repair. There should not be much food, water and other necessities on the boat. We must also supply. The dwarves are a good choice. We don't have to know what the island is. What's going on? Bai Yu said while looking at the crowd. After some discussion, everyone decided that Enel and Brooke would stay to guard the sunny. After all, it was obviously impossible for no one to stay. Next, Straw Hat crew walked directly towards the forest. But when they came to the place where they separated from Lirim just now, they didn't see Lirim, and Chufeng also opened Mangekyo's blood wheel eyes to search for Lirim. It's just a pity that Lilim was not seen anywhere in a radius of dozens of miles. How is it? Are you nearby? Robin saw Bai 970's state of Yu's eyes and knew that Bai Yu was using his abilities. Bai Yu shook his head. No, maybe he went back early. It doesn't matter, we have left a mark, and since we have walked twice, we should be able to find the dwarf tribe by memory. He is still very confident about this. What only worried him was that Lilim probably didn't leave by himself, because there were footprints of several people here, and from the footprints, they didn't seem to belong to dwarves. Now I can only pray that Lilim doesn't have an accident. After all, Lilim came here because of them. Bai Yu, who was walking in front, thought of this, and his pace couldn't help speeding up a bit. Robin would have also found the clue, and his inner guess might not be as simple as Bai Yu said. Soon, everyone came to the tribe, because Bai Yu had the chief token, and because the guards knew them, they naturally did not stop him. But just after they met the female chief, Bai Yu's guess was verified, and Lilim didn't come back. It seems that this girl Lilim is more fierce than good, the female chief said after listening to what Bai Yu said. Master Chief, do you know what's going on? Does your tribe have hostile forces? Bai Yu thought of this at the first time. Obviously, the location just now was not done by a beast, Bai Yu can be sure. Chapter 348 Auto-generated chapter title. 349 Rescue. At this time, the chief glanced at the clothes placed beside her. This clothes Bai Yu knew, it was the clothes Lilim had worn before. I'm afraid Lilim will be less fortunate this time, the female chief said with a sigh. Suddenly there was a loud noise from outside the hall. Chief Renekton, you can't go in, the female chief is meeting important guests. The two guards stopped the menacing Renekton and said. However, how could their strength be Renekton's opponents? With a big wave of Renekton's hand, the two guards who looked rather strong were thrown away. Pushing open the gate of the hall, Renekton walked straight up in front of several people, and then knelt down on one knee. Lord Chief, please forgive me for being unreasonable, but I heard that Lilim was taken away by the giants. I asked the chief to give me 10 elite dwarves and let me rescue Lilim. Renekton's tone was decisive, as if undoubtedly. The female chief also looked at Renekton, who was already gray-haired, and sighed. Old leader Lei, I know that you were very anxious when Lilim was arrested. After all, you watched her grow up, but don't forget, I am her mother, and I am also very anxious, but I am not acting on my will now. At the time, you also know that the strength of the giant clan is not something we can compete with now. I can't let my clansman die just because she is my daughter. When the female chief said this, the tears in her eyes were swirling. Why didn't he want to save Lilim? As a mother, she hoped that she could immediately send troops to rescue her precious daughter, but as a chief, the ruler of a tribe, she can't do this, she can't let the people take risks because of her own selfish desires. If this is the case, the old man is willing to go alone. Hearing what the female chief said, Renekton said after a moment of silence. Lilim is the one she has grown up with since she was a child. In his eyes, Lilim is his granddaughter, while Renekton has never found a partner in his life. When he is alone, he is only a young Lilim. With Mew by his side, he has long regarded Lilim as his closest relative. Now that Lilim has been arrested, he certainly can't sit still, but he is the leader of a tribe after all, so he still has to report to the chief before leaving. Bai Yu looked at the posture of the two and already guessed something. Lilim was captured by the giants, and the giants might have something to do with the dwarves. Lilim was arrested because of us, so let's go with the old boss. Luffy, who had not spoken for a while, could now speak. But Bai Yu had already guessed that Luffy would say so, and he would definitely save people with such a warm heart. This female chief is still a little uneasy. After all, in her opinion, the current giant clan is really too strong, and there are several capable people, not ordinary people can deal with. If the chief is worried about our safety, then there is no need. Our strength may be beyond your imagination. Bai Yu glanced at the hesitant female chief and said. He had already guessed what the female chief was thinking now. After all, a few of them were easily caught by the female chief's design, so in the heart of the female chief, their force was not high, even a little low, but their medical skills were good. Since everyone has said so, then there is work. If it is possible to have a daughter, then the dwarf tribe must thank you very much, the female chief said gratefully, looking at several people. In her opinion, Straw Hat Crew did not need to do this step at all, after all, they are just travelers. Then let Mr. Renekton take you along. Don't look at Renekton's old age now, but he was a good fighter back then. No, but we all have our own weapons, and we took them with good intentions. Hearing this, Bai Yu thought to himself, isn't this giant's ability the same as Akamichi Choji in Hokage, gigantic? It turns out that the giants have special abilities. The strong can cultivate wisdom, and they can make their bodies small, about the size of humans, but their strength is amazing. This is also the secret method of the giants. Of course, only the giants can do it. Arrive. Almost all giants have this ability. In fact, we don't need weapons, we are fruit power users. After speaking, Luffy made his hand huge, and then thought about waving it in the sky, as if to show his ability. Aren't you, Nuo Zhao's all fruit-powered ones? Renekton said, glancing at the Straw Hat Crew in front of him. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. At this time, Bai Yu was still very puzzled. After all, the giants were huge. They had seen it when they came to this island before, but if such a huge figure really appeared in the place before Lirim, they would have seen it. It should be impossible not to find it. However, this also allowed Bai Yu to see the abilities of these dwarf craftsmen. Everything they made was very good, but unfortunately, the raw materials were not very good, so the upper limit of the things they made was relatively low. A few people just followed Renekton on the road. After all, they didn't know where the giant tribe was. After walking for about 5 minutes, Renekton came to a house, opened the door, and the stove in the house was burning brightly. At this time, there are a lot of dwarves who are building something. It seems that there are many types of weapons, and each one seems to be very sophisticated. Seeing this, Renekton was a little shocked. After all, in their tribe, although there are people with this ability, they are very few. I think you don't seem to have weapons, so let's pick one for yourself. Renekton walked to the door of the arsenal and took out all his weapons. There are many kinds of weapons. Of course, this can't be said, after all, only he knows this. Of course, these are nothing to Bai Yu. He has good materials. He just needs to go to the system to exchange them. What he needs is this kind of dwarf craftsman. The female chief may arrange for the best craftsman to make him a weapon. At the moment, I also asked old Renekton. After saying goodbye to the female chief, a few people walked out of the palace. Renekton couldn't wait for this meeting, but he still had to explain clearly to these outsiders. In fact, in his own heart, he did not want these people to come together. After all, I feel that these people are probably not very capable, and maybe they will be dragged down if they really fight. In fact, Bai Yu and the others don't like the things Renekton brought out. Although these are excellent equipment, they may be able to sell for a lot of money if they are sold outside, but they still don't like it for their level. Chapter 349 Auto-generated chapter title. Light. The best traditional dishes of different countries. Best culinary dishes of world. 350. Tsukuyomi Kamui. Seeing that the Straw Hat crew didn't choose any equipment, Renekton was not angry. He didn't know that they were all capable people at first. At first, he thought that maybe only Bai Yu was the most special one. After all, Bai Yu's temperament and others different. After all this was done, Renekton put on his armor. The armor looked a little old, and it was densely packed with traces left by the battle. Seeing this, even Bai Yu was moved. Although he didn't know what the old man experienced, there should be many legendary stories in the old man's life. The strength of the giants is very strong. Once we set off, there is no turning back. Let me reiterate once again that it is too late to leave now. Renekton looked at Bai Yu's group and said, Master, since we decided to go, we won't back down. Don't worry about that. To be honest, we pirates are not people who are greedy for life and fear of death. Hearing Luffy's words, Renekton was obviously stunned. For a moment, he didn't know they were pirates at first. Pirates? What? Hearing these two words made Renekton a little stunned, but he quickly realized that now is not the time when 970 recalled his past glory. With everything in place, Straw Hat crew and Renekton set off on their journey. Along the way, they saw a lot of rare and exotic herbs, but most of them were poisonous, and the mandala flower that surrounded the dwarf tribe was the most. Speaking of which, this mandala flower is like protecting the dwarf tribe. Although it is poisonous, it does ensure that the dwarf will not be invaded by the outside world. Bai Yu is thinking now, maybe the reason why the giants didn't attack the dwarf tribe might have a lot to do with the mandala flower. After all, he knew that the mandala flower was a common trouble in this island, so when Straw Hat the dwarves would be so shocked when crew said that datura poison could be cured. Several people shuttled through the forest, crossing rivers and hills. After about half a day, when everyone came to a place with dense trees, Renekton suddenly stopped and said with a serious face, We are here, this is the territory of the giant tribe. Hearing what Renekton said, everyone looked up into the distance. There are indeed tall buildings in the distance. Compared with the dwarf tribes, the difference is that those buildings look rough, not as delicate as the dwarves, but the buildings are huge and also it is worthy of the giants to say so. Then what do we do next? Luffy squatted on the ground and looked at Renekton. After all, Renekton was the commander of their operation, and only Renekton knew about the giants. Wait, only when night is about to fall, will we have a chance. When the giants are at night, their eyesight will be very poor, and then we will have the opportunity to sneak in. In fact, Bai Yu is going to attack directly. After all, he has the strength, but because Lilim is still in their hands, if they really rashly attack, Lilim will suffer a serious blow. I have to try, after all, they are here to save people, not to provoke an all-out war between the giants and the dwarves. As night gradually fell, a group of people had already made preparations. When the first firelight rose, Renekton directed everyone to sneak in quietly. Just as soon as they arrived at the door, everyone saw two guards. The two guards looked like ordinary human beings, but the head was much taller than the average person, and it seemed to be at least 2 meters 5. Wow, it really is a giant clan. In this form, it can be more than 2 meters tall. Usopp couldn't help but complain, he was only 1 meter 7 or 6. But when he saw the two giant guards standing at the door, Ray Bcaa Keaton hesitated. Damn, how could it be the two of them? Hearing Renekton's words, Bai Yu was stunned for a moment, then Mangekyo opened his blood-wheel eyes, observed the surrounding environment, and also checked the situation of the two guards. What surprised him was that these two were obviously not ordinary people. Since they would have Haki, and the strength of Haki was not low, it also showed that these two must be very capable. We may not be able to get in, and if the two brothers are guarding the area, we won't be able to get in. Renekton said with a sigh, obviously he was very depressed at this time, as if he was complaining that God made a big joke with him. But even if he said that, Bai Yu didn't want to give up just like that. They had already traveled for a long time. If they gave up here, it would be impossible to save Lilim. He also said that his weapon building plan was not in vain. Yet. Before Renekton could tell his next plan, Bai Yu walked out with Shunpo. His move also startled Renekton. Boy, what are you doing? You will expose us. But when he said this, it was too late because Bai Yu had already walked out. Observation Haki, together with Conqueror's Haki, formed a barrier on Bai Yu's body. In this way, Bai Yu quietly came to the so-called two brothers. The two brothers who seemed to have sensed something would turn their heads directly, and a pair of strange eyes were watching them. Tsukuyomi. In just an instant, the two people that Renekton feared fell directly into their own illusion. Bai Yu waved to everyone in the grass, indicating that he was done. Straw Hat crew, who saw this scene, was naturally accustomed to it. Let's go, the guards have been settled. Robin said, looking at Renekton, who was now sluggish. At this time, Renekton was extremely shocked. He didn't know what the young man had done to the two brothers just now. Those were the higher brothers. They were the high-end fighting power of the giants. In that chaotic era, the higher brothers were also all powerful on the battlefield. Man of the year. He didn't know why these two came to be the guards today. After all, their military merits, penultimate, should have already been mixed into the leader-level characters. How could they be brought in to be the guards? It is believed that Lilim was caught by the giants, and the reason why the higher brothers came to see the gate was because they knew that someone would come to save people today, and they were waiting for their prey to be hooked. Their ability is very strong. My Tsukuyomi won't be able to sleep on them for long, we have to fight quickly. Bai Yu said, seeing several people who had come to them. Let's split up. Observation Haki should allow us to find Lilim. And they were also divided into 4 groups. The captains of each group were people who had seen Lilim himself, only in this way could they find Lilim faster. Chapter 350 Auto-generated chapter title. Light. The best traditional dishes of different countries. Best culinary dishes of world. 351. Crisis. Alarm sounded. Renekton followed Bai Yu. He is even more curious about the man in front of him now. He doesn't know how Bai Yu did it just now. From his point of view, he can only see that Bai Yu went up and looked at the 2 brothers, and then the 2 brothers stood there. Don't move, this is simply amazing. Seemingly aware of Renekton's surprise, Bai Yu said, Leader Lei, don't be surprised, that's just one of my abilities. After saying this, Bai Yu slowly spread his observation haki to the giants all over the tribe. Not to mention, this tribe is really big, probably several times bigger than the dwarves. Bai Yu's observation haki can't be completely covered by several people, and there is an enemy. Since Bai Yu can't detect the internal situation, it seems to be disturbed by something, and it seems that there is some kind of force fighting against his sight haki. Generally. This got him interested. I didn't expect that since the giants have such a strong person, it is no wonder that the female chief will have such an expression after learning that Lilim has been arrested. If it is such a strong person, maybe the dwarves really have no chance. However, although I am very curious, other things must be considered after finding and rescuing Lilim. After all, they are here this time, and rescuing Lilim is the top priority. Continue to open the observation haki exploration, and finally Bai Yu found the place where Lilim was imprisoned. I found it. After speaking, Bai Yu said that he was at the forefront. The night here is the same as the dwarves, there are few people outside, and these giants seem to be the same as Renekton said, their eyesight is very poor at night, so many of them are walking in the tribe, since no one notices. Soon, since he came to a very tall building. It's here, Lilim's aura comes from here. Bai Yu said, pointing to the building in front of him. But the building door was closed at this time. Renekton looked at Bai Yu and said, how do we get in? Bai Yu looked at Ace who was standing beside him and said, Ace, you should be fine. After saying that, he made way for Ace. In the next second, Ace turned into a fire and went in. Quietly opened the door, and several people entered the building smoothly, which shocked Renekton again. Although he knew that these people were capable people, he had never seen this kind of ability. On this island, there is no Logia-capable person, so Ace's ability, for Renekton, is really amazing. After approaching this prison, Renekton was filled with emotion and touched the walls here. This prison is specially used to detain our dwarves, and I was also detained here. For some reason, Renekton suddenly sighed, maybe he came to his sad place. For the next journey, Renekton seems to be very familiar with this place. At night, there are no soldiers here, which makes Bai Yu and others strange. I have to say that these giant clansmen are really strange, and they are fundamentally different from the thinking of ordinary people. Different. However, this may have something to do with the lack of Logia ability on this island. After all, the gate of this prison cannot be opened from the outside without a key. Of course, it is very simple to open it from the inside. Perhaps they regard this place as a place that is absolutely safe and no one can invade. Under the leadership of Renekton, the few people walked all the way to the depths of the prison, thanks to the good eyesight of the dwarves at night. Otherwise, a player like Franky could only hit the wall in this place where he couldn't see his fingers. Yes, there are no lights here. After walking for a few minutes, several people came to a cell. Bai Yu was surprised that since these cells were also built by seastone, although they looked much simpler than the cells of the dwarves, they were indeed seastone buildings. For those who are capable, this is a place where there is absolutely no way to break through. Perhaps this is also one of the trump cards of the giants. After all, even if someone has the ability to attack, it must be done only by the able, and the ability is restrained by seastone, which is equivalent to a dead end. But what they don't know is that Bai Yu is not demon fruit power, he has absolute power to open this prison. Amaterasu, Black Flame. Without ink, Bai Yu directly opened the ultimate move and burned the door of this cell. Inside the door, Lilim was indeed inside, but now he seems to be in a coma, and there are still many scars on his body, it seems that he was severely tortured. Wake up Lilim, we're here to save you, Lilim. Seeing Lilim, Renekton rushed up the first time. For flowers 00. After seeing that Lilim had fallen asleep at this time, Renekton was deeply distressed. After picking up Lilim, he said to Bai Yu, let's go quickly, I'm afraid we will be discovered later. Although the giants have poor eyesight at night, they still have fighting power. After he finished speaking, he took everyone back the same way. This is an alarm for the giants to meet the enemy. We may have been discovered and we must leave here as soon as possible. At the same time, several people who had split up before also returned. Of course, this is also because Bai Yu used his mind power. Inform them that they have been found. Master, leave it to me here. You and my crew will wait for me outside first, and I'll break it up. Bai Yu said confidently, moving his muscles. Point 0. I haven't moved my muscles for a few days, so let's take the two brothers and make an operation. The strength of the two brothers in front of him is not average, so he can't be careless. 0. Right at this moment, Renekton put down Lilim and said to the crowd, you wait for Lilim to leave, they are very strong, I will break it later. Then he pulled out the saber he carried with him. At this time, there were drops of blood flowing out of Bai Yu's eyes, which was the state of Mangekyo's blood wheel eyes fully open. Everyone went all the way to the road where they came, and when they came to the door, suddenly two huge figures appeared. They were none other than the higher brothers who were directly taken by Bai Yu Tsukuyomi. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. But, Renekton wanted to say something, but was interrupted by Bai Yu's shot. But what moved Bai Yu was that even so, he still decided to stay behind to stop the two brothers, and Bai Yu was moved. Don't you believe me, but don't forget, how I put them into an illusion just now, it seems that they are vulnerable in the game. After finishing speaking, he looked back at Renekton. But obviously his seriousness has fear, which is captured by Bai Yu. But at this moment, an alarm broke the silence of the night. Soon, several people walked out of the prison. I didn't expect that since their willpower is so strong, Tsukuyomi can only have such a short-term effect on them. Seeing the two awakened, Bai Yu also smiled. After hearing this alarm, Renekton immediately became restless. Walking on the ground in this darkness,